Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Matt Taylor. Welcome to Spitballin'. I'm here with my good buddy,
Kyle Amundsen.
How you doing today, Kyle?
I'm well. Well. Really good. Yeah.
So last week we talked a little bit about The Mandalorian, but last night I finally got to sit down with Peyton and make some popcorn and watch the episode 3. We watched episode 2 and 3. I'd already seen episode 2, but he hadn't, so pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. So we're probably gonna throw out some spoilers here.
So if you haven't watched The Mandalorian, you might want to skip ahead. Once our guest Antje comes on, we'll try to refrain from The Mandalorian. But if you haven't seen it yet, you might want to skip ahead, 20 minutes or so.
And so one of the questions that I got, a friend got a hold of me, my friend Allie, and she was like, "Why do you think why do you think those guys all showed up to help him?" And she's like, "My theory was, or she thought they, just were doing it because he was, because he needed help." And her husband thought that it was about the little Yoda baby. But I told her, I'm like, well, here's the deal. When the word went out that he was going to get ganked, the Mandalorians, like I said, I think I mentioned last week that the Mandalorians are about the fight,
right,
testing themselves and shit.
Right.
So it's one of those deals where whether I like this guy or not, this is a fight that we should be in. It's just some warrior shit.
Right.
That's their culture.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that they're besties. It just means that I know where I know where there's a fight. I know where we can go get bloody.
It kind of reminds me of and I don't know if it's based on it all, but it kind of reminds me of the Apache culture. Because back, during the American Indian Wars, when General Cook was out trying to basically, exterminate the Apache, Apache would go work for him and be trackers and whatever. And it was always like, why the hell would they do that? And it was because the Apache culture was such a warrior culture that they wanted to go wherever the best fight was, so they would go in and they ended up all getting screwed in the end. Go figure. But, if you've ever seen the movie Geronimo, did you ever see Geronimo? Yeah. Great movie. And they really kind of lay that out pretty well. And, but it's just a movie, but it seems pretty historically accurate to some of the other shit.
Wes Studi, I think, and what's his name that played the butcher?
It's Matt Damon is in it. The young Matt Damon, he's the kid.
Jason Patric.
Yep, Jason Patric, the guy from Lost Boys. Yeah, good movie. It was very cool. And one of my favorite parts at the end when the guy is. The big dude is flying next to his spaceship and with his jetpack on, and Mando says, "I gotta get one of those." One thing I find interesting about that is they haven't really mentioned anybody's name.
No,
nobody seems to have a name,
and he hasn't taken his damn helmet off, which I didn't realize. I didn't know. Maybe that's a new thing. I did not know that was part of.
Had a pretty long discussion with Peyton last night because. In Star Wars Rebels, which is which goes pretty deep into the Mandalorian culture and kind of explains how Mandalore, their home world, got destroyed and everything like that. It gets pretty into it. They take their helmets off all the time, so I don't know where that rule came from. But we were talking about it, and I was thinking possibly that because that takes place. The Rebels takes place before Rogue One, so it kind of butts up to Rogue One. So that's before the fall of the Empire. Well, now the Empire's already fallen, so maybe they're the whole idea of not taking your helmet off has something to do with with the fall of the Empire, hiding who you are or something. Who knows? I don't know. It was interesting.
It made me think right away of something that, I always get these ideas, I would waste so much time shooting little skits if I had like a studio, like a big old studio and a bunch of a big budget for like costumes and stuff. Made me think of the most like awkward love scene to ever show up in a science fiction movie. like where do little Mandalorians come from? Donk bonk. Just a scene like that.
One question I had is, if they don't ever take their helmet off, how the fuck do they eat?
Right? How do you brush your teeth?
Right. How do you eat? How do you brush your teeth? How do you?
Is it like they eat in reverse, like that South Park episode? They just cram food up their ass.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't get it.
Yeah. So I think that's a little bit of a weird one. Plus, I kind of don't like the idea of him not taking his helmet off ever, because you lose a lot of the ability to like do any facial expressions and stuff like that. I do think that thus far, what's the name of the actor?
Was it Pedro Pascal?
Yeah, Oberon. He has done a really good job.
I was thinking that too when I'm like it's like I can feel his expression.
Right, like there was one spot and he like turns his head and looks like, "What the fuck are you talking about, Willis?" And it was like you could kind of read that expression from him. And I mean, you're just looking at a helmet.
Right. And like when he's, when after he drops the baby off and stuff, and they're like showing up close up of him in his ship. And like in a normal movie, that would be just him, like you'd be like reading his face. And I felt almost silly because I'm just looking at his fucking helmet.
Helmet, right.
But you know what his expression is, because
that he's just
they leave
like,
that to
fuck,
us.
I gotta go back.
But I know that he takes his helmet off. I've seen clips of him with his helmet off during the show, and you wouldn't you'd save a bunch of money on actors if they didn't take their fucking helmets off. You could get
They're
anybody
all
to play
stunt
that
men.
shit.
Yeah. Well, and I bet you most of the actual Mandos are. Yeah, really, really interesting. That was a great scene. So, okay, episode 2, I didn't care for it when I watched it the first time that much.
Sure.
I was like, it's all right. But I thought it was a little too kiddish, a little bit too like, there was a little too much comic relief in it.
But they set the stage for, episode 3.
Well, but then I watched it again last night with Peyton, and I was like, maybe I need to rethink that kiddish thing, because he just fucking smokes a shit pile of Jawas, and then when those other
who doesn't hate Jawas?
Right.
Look, I know
Jawas.
that's racist, but fuck.
It's speciest, actually. Yeah,
Don't
be a speciest. And then when he gets attacked by the other bounty hunters, he like fucks them all up. And then the one guy's running away, and he like totally shoots him in the back. And I was like,
True.
So I had a question for you. Peyton and I were talking last night, and he said, I think Mando's lawful neutral. And I was like, So I don't like, and it's been a long time since I've like
thought about things in alignment
terms. But where would you put him on the scale of alignment?
Man, I hate alignment.
Right, because it's.
In fact, in my current gaming group, we don't even do it.
Yeah, so I like that's actually about the exact same thing I said. As I said to Pates, I said, there is no such thing as an alignment.
But see, I mean, he's clearly lawful, although he does go, back on. Well, no, actually, he completed that deal. That transaction is over.
Yeah.
So, and see, but I hate the whole because he's not lawful good. But there's always the tendencies thing. I always wondered. So, in case you don't know what we're talking about, there's I wish you could get into that for a second. So in Dungeons and Dragons, you've got alignments. It's like a 3x3 box. You've got good, neutral, evil, and you've got chaotic, neutral, and good. All right, chaotic, neutral, and lawful. So obviously, lawful good is super goody. Follow all the rules, always do the right thing.
Chaotic good is so good it's bad.
Yeah, chaotic good is I'm gonna find the way to do this, or to do the right thing, no matter what.
So a person who comes to mind, or a character that comes to mind that you would kind of look at as chaotic good, would be Stannis Baratheon.
No, Stannis was definitely. I'd say Stannis Baratheon was. He might have been lawful neutral, or even.
But the whole idea where he would like follow the rules even when they were like.
And see, that's where alignment gets kind of. That's where one of the ways that alignment gets fucked up, because he was one of those guys that talked himself into shit, or could be talked into stuff. Like, well, this is the way it should be because like he thought he had that legitimate claim to
right, that he was so but what I was talking to Peyton about last night is I was like, like I basically agreed with you. I said I don't really like the whole alignment idea because it's like nobody is one thing, nobody's good or neutral or evil. We're all a bunch of those things.
I used to spend a lot of time wondering what my alignment was.
And what would you say?
I have no fucking idea.
Right.
I mean,
because there are times where
I only had 40 fucking years to think about it, and right. still don't have a good answer.
Right.
So.
Because I mean, there are times where I'm definitely, where I definitely am in the evil camp, and other times when I'm definitely in the good camp. So I think it's kind of a bullshit thing. But Peyton asked me about it, and said, "What do you think?" I think he's lawful neutral, and I was like, I haven't thought about alignment in 20 years. So.
I guess, if I had to, I would need two alignments. I would need, like neutral good in the streets, chaotic evil in the sheets. I just fucked up that wink. I tried to wink at the camera and I winked with both eyes. Die. But yeah, that's actually, I stole that from one of my fucking nerd shirts. It's Jedi in the streets, Sith in the sheets.
Nice. Yeah. I like it.
But and I also getting back to that big fight, those guys also have an axe to grind with the Empire,
right?
So the fact that he like completed the deal, got paid for it,
pissy about
then
that.
Went back on his own and fucked them up, he probably very much appealed to the other Mandalorians as well. So
what about the new armor?
Looks pretty dope.
Yeah, I was like, it's like that's always such a cool, I don't know, scene in any, like when you go and you get outfitted, that's always like an exciting, like Red Dawn when they go and start, raiding that
little sporting goods section
store,
and you're
like, yeah, or whatever. So, but yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And his armor looks dope. Is that our Antje?
It is.
Okay, sounds good. Well, that's really what we wanted to talk about before Antje got here. Our guest today is Antje Anderson, who is really an interesting character. So neither Kyle and I know shit about her, so it'll be very, very interesting to have a conversation.
Except she's awesome. Her. She's funny. She's Noah's sister.
Yeah. And she's Noah's sister. All right, so we will be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Spitballin'. I'm Matt Taylor here with my good buddy,
Kyle Amundsen.
And today we have Antje Anderson in the house. How you doing, Antje?
Good. How are you?
Good. You are our first half African American. We just found out.
Yeah. No, I am. I'm 50-50, right down the middle, half black, half white. A lot of people don't know
that. Fucks me up. I always thought that you were Chinese.
You would be surprised how many people I've had like come up to me throughout my life saying, "Oh, your hair is so great. What are you?"
What are you?
So I try to think like, how can I answer this uniquely today? So I've thrown out the Jew card because my grandma on my mom's side is a Jew, and
so you're part Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? So like part Jewish. Well, we won't even count that. Well, we will count that.
We should count that.
So part Jewish. We'll go right by. We'll blow right by the fact that you're a woman. So you're half black, part Jewish. Are you gay?
I am not.
Man, you were so close to a hat trick.
I know. I'm sorry.
Damn it. We could have checked that off our diversity checklist.
Obviously, you aren't Asian though, because you flunked out of college. You suck at math.
I actually was I was good at math. I just struggled with chemistry. So I graduated from Brainerd in 2008 with hopes of becoming a pediatric orthopedic surgeon. So I was a
Wow.
biochem major at the University of North Dakota.
So you weren't fucking around like, I mean, you at least made a real legit attempt at real hard fucking stuff
yeah.
you know.
It was the worst. So in like multiple attempts. So I went to UND. I came back for my boyfriend my sophomore year. I came back to CLC, or as I like to call it, the University of Brainerd. And then I went back up to UND, came back to CLC, went back up to UND. And then finally I was like 5 years into schooling, and I called my mom and I said, I just don't want to do this. I'm done. I go, I'm going to move to Minneapolis and find myself. And she goes, you're going to find yourself with your real estate license. So that's what I did.
I'm gonna move to Minneapolis and find myself. I was like, no, fuck this. I'm gonna be a stripper.
That's usually where I find myself.
It sounds
You
like-
know,
Well, at strip clubs, that's where I find myself.
I've only been to one once. It was a horrible experience.
I've only been to 2 strip clubs in my life, and they were three strip clubs in my life, and they were miserable experiences, all of them. Yeah.
you know, if you go with the right group, it can be fun. I haven't really been to very many strip clubs, which is weird considering like how many like strippers, ex-strippers, occasionally a couple of future strippers, you know, that I've like dated over the years. You know, like it's.
Did you almost use quotation marks with dated?
Dated.
What is dated?
Dated.
I mean, I think dated is a dated term in this day and age. So.
I thought you were going to throw in like the Z card, like Zorba's during the summertime is kind of a.
Oh, no, those people don't get paid at all. They just take their fucking clothes off. And I'm like, put your fucking clothes on, you
I'm
know?
gonna kick you
And I'm
out.
like, you've got about
20
15
minutes.
right? to put that shit back on. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of it is dudes. So, you know, what else?
Right.
Just have danger go and handle.
There. This is your microphone.
Oh, sorry.
So did you ended up in Minneapolis, and then you did get your real estate license?
I did.
That's
I was forced to go to real estate school. And yeah, so I finished. I've been a licensed agent since 2013.
That seems like a long time. I think you are older than
I'm 30.
See,
I
and you
just
look.
turned 30 last
You
week.
realize that you
week
look
and a
like
half.
you're 17, right?
It's the Asian features.
Yes.
It's the black. The black don't crack.
Oh.
Or it's the Botox.
I was trying to think of like some like all the different possibilities were going through my head. I was trying to think of like an Asian version of Black Don't Crack, but I
can't think of one
coming
either.
up dry. Yeah,
I can't think of one. Matt?
I got nothing.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got my real estate license. I started to work for my mom. I ended up having my son, Navy, who will now be 6 in February, moved back up to Brainerd.
Navy's a nice but incredibly homely child. So she has a
he's
famously adorable son. He's ridiculously cute. Apparently knows it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
I stalk you on
For
Facebook,
sure.
so I see all
That's
this
fine.
stuff.
Oh, yeah. And he's a special one. He's my mom. I'll have days with him where I'm like, I just don't understand like how this child can be so sassy. And my mom will go, he's just like you. I don't feel bad for you. You were 10 times worse. I thought you were possessed when you were 3, which is the truth. So, but yeah, so so when I got pregnant with him, I ended up moving back up to Brainerd. And that would have been in October of 2014. I bought my first house that was a flip house, and I gutted it when I was pregnant. It was like my pregnancy project. So
I remember that.
yeah,
Yep.
it was just across the park and down the road.
So your mom is the infamous Tina Anderson.
My mom is the infamous Tina Anderson.
And I've known Tina for, well, actually, I guess as long as I've known you and Noah, but like, because I think that's how I met Tina was through Noah doing jujitsu. And he was probably about 8, I suppose, when he started.
Yeah, so he's 20. He'll be 21 this year.
Yeah, so for quite some time. But I've last week, I kept clearing my throat the whole time, and
So did I.
yeah,
And
it was just horrible.
then I went back and watched it, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm really trying not to clear my throat. But so I've always kind of been Tina's, I don't know, go-to
guy
If
for, like,
something
all of this
weird
stuff.
comes up, like she'll like call me up. She'll be like, and some of the stuff she asks me to do is so fucking weird. I don't want to get her in any trouble, but
won't.
I'm still gonna say it. So she called me up one day. This was probably a decade ago, and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "What am I doing, Tina?" That's a good question. She goes, "I need you to go pick up this like U-Haul, and I need you to drive out to this address, and I need you to load up all of these tires, and then I need you to drive to some dump in the middle of like
Nowhere.
Bethel or something." It was just way, way out there. And then you got to talk to this guy named Tiny, and then you got to dump them. And I was like, all right, okay, whatever. And whenever Tina asked me to do something, if I could, I always would. So I go get these fucking tires that are just nasty, full of water. It was just horrible all day thing. Drive 2.5 hours in the middle of nowhere, walk into this like crazy like meth lab.
Hills have
thing.
eyes looking fucking.
Walk in there, and it's on a res, and I walk in, and it's all native guys sitting around, and I look around, and there's this huge fucking guy, and I'm like, "Hey, Tiny," and he stands up. What? I was like, "Tina told me to drop some tires off," and he goes, "Okay, just down there."
You actually do a really good
That was exactly what he sounded like.
Tiny from the Res.
Hey, Tiny, that was Tiny from the Reds. Okay, just down there.
Well, do you remember back when we were maintenancing foreclosures?
No, I've blacked that out of my mind.
So we
was that when you were doing the mowing and all that stuff?
Yeah, but Matt had to do a drive-by once, like out in the boondocks.
Oh, no. So this was, so I did do a bunch of mowing for foreclosures, but this is back when all we were doing
taking
was
pictures?
taking pictures of
We
foreclosures.
were creeping on houses, making sure that they were occupied.
Was it the guy that chased him?
Yeah, I did tell that story. Yeah, I did tell that story.
you?
Yeah, but that was crazy, and that was only one of the times.
Yeah.
Me and Logan one time got chased down by some people too, and I was like,
Well, and
this is scary.
I had a guy once come up to me because I was, failing at college and I needed money. So I would come back on the weekends occasionally and do drive-bys for my mom. So I had a guy once follow me, and he, I pull over because I'm like, oh gosh, what's going to happen? And he goes, "I see you every month coming by and taking pictures of my kid, you perv." And I go, "Taking pictures of your kid? I'm taking pictures of your house." I go, "You're in default. Like I work for your bank. So I'm doing property condition reports."
The only time anybody was relieved to hear that.
He was like, oh, okay. I go, "So until your house goes back to the bank, like I'm going to be here every month. So I'm not taking pictures of your kid. I'm taking pictures of your yard with all of the stuff in it." And then,
thank God, I'm just going to lose my house.
it's not some pervy lady. And that was when I drove, I had a Hummer. So I was like driving this big Hummer to take pictures of these houses because I could listen to my gangster music.
Well, see, the weird people you come into contact with, I was actually thinking about doing some census work part-time because next year's a census year.
Weird.
And one of the reasons was because of the weird shit. Like I'd probably have some weird stories.
I would imagine.
Because people are, even weirder now. Like it seems like people have gotten weirder like over time. And now people are more private and more distrustful and shit like that. And like we've discussed a little bit, on the show before, I wouldn't say accustomed to, I don't know if I'd ever get accustomed to it, but I have had people like shove guns in my face before, like it's not really
right.
It's not something brand new to me. So I'm like, I feel like kind of uniquely, and I'm, because of my line of work, I'm also good with just being like confrontational, like not confrontational, but like just good in weird, awkward situations.
Right.
So I was like, I'm uniquely qualified for this, like.
You'd mess the hole.
People would, like if people are going to get weird and shit, I'll be like, okay, like, well, if that's the way you feel, I'm out of here.
I think it would be fun. The only problem that I would have with it is like, I have such a hard time with dogs. So like going up and like, I can never be a mailman or a delivery person or anything, or like Josh Holtz, like does the meters thing.
And stuff.
No way. No, couldn't do it.
Well, my only thing would be like, because I'm the opposite, like dogs, like I think I've told that story about the mean dogs before, right? When I went over to my children's uncle's house. I didn't tell you that. So, my buddy Joey, who actually watches the show, I haven't seen it forever. Love you. my children, I have two children with Joey's younger sister, and the kids were over there. And I was meeting him over at his place. I don't know if I was picking up the kids or whatever, but I got there and there were a couple of pit bulls out in the yard, and I got out of the car, and I'm playing with the fucking dogs, and then all of a sudden Joey like comes out and realizes I'm there. He's like, "Oh man," he's like, "Hey." He's like, I would have come and got you, man. He's like, these things are these things are fucking killers. They're vicious, Meanwhile, like these fucking dogs are like licking me and like rolling around on their backs and shit. And I'm playing with them, and I'm like, vicious. I'm like, you're not vicious, And so I go in the house, and I was there for like 10 minutes, and his older sister pulls in the yard, and the dogs wouldn't let her out of the car. And Joey goes, he's like, man, that shit about dogs being able to like sense evil and stuff, man. He's like, that's some shit. He's like, that's some real shit.
It's not evil, they sense. It's fear.
No,
God
I
damn
know,
it.
I know, but no, but they.
Are you really afraid of dogs?
Horrified.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got chewed up really bad by my own dog when I was like 20, and then I just I have this like underlying fear of dogs, and then that fear has been repeatedly reinforced
Yeah.
by dogs because they sense I'm afraid, and then they're just like, I don't.
Yeah, and then
What's
they'll
this?
fuck with
What's this fucking guy afraid of?
Oh.
Fuck. Better
Don't
bite
go
him.
over to Tina's
Rob.
house anytime soon because she's got all the dogs right now.
Yeah, I am always like, and I'm not afraid of like little old dogs or like,
has a
and
Great
some
Dane.
dogs I'm not. I love Great Danes. I and the thing is that I love dogs. It's just I have a really hard time when I first meet them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was telling the story last week about how we were at the bar. The hockey game was over and everybody was all pissed off because they lost. And then Aaron turned on the dog show, and the whole like mood of the bar changed. But I didn't tell this story, and I thought it was cool. There's a guy in there who I like pretty much, but a pit bull came up on the screen, and I was like, oh, I have such a hard time with pit bulls. And he goes, oh, I have a couple pit bulls. I said, really? He goes, yeah, I rescued this one from Chicago, and he's an awesome dog, but he's a racist. And I was like, what? And he goes, I know, it's so weird, and I feel so awkward about it, but he fucking hates black people. And I was like, that's the strangest thing I've ever heard. He goes, I know. And so he's like, and my buddy comes over, and like the dog is super friendly to everybody. My buddy comes over, and he's just like, and he's like, dude, I'm sorry, but he fucking hates black people.
I wonder if it was a rescue, if it was abused.
And that's the thing.
Then
People
I was
train
like,
those fucking things to be like. I actually got in a fight with a pit bull that was a racist dog before. I mean, he wasn't, and he was not like racist towards white people. He was a hillbilly's dog that they like tried to train to attack black people.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, see, and that's the thing. And actually, after I was talking to him about it, I actually was thinking about it. And I was like, I mean, obviously this dog was a rescue. It was from Chicago. He more than likely like had bad experiences. It's no more his fault to have this reaction toward, like something that reminds him of something, than it is my fault that I have a fear response when I see a dog. I can rationalize all I want that dog's not going to hurt me, but that doesn't make any difference. Right. I still got that fear. So kind of an interesting thing.
But so like the dogs, like if a dog were to bite me and stuff while I was doing the census thing, I would be like, don't hurt. Like I fell, I tripped, like I bit myself. Like don't hurt that dog. Like he was just protecting his space. But yeah, like it seems like an intriguing thing to do, but like but then the problem is like they can tell me off and tell me to get the fuck out of there and I'll just go. But if somebody follows me, then I'm in my car, and you know how I get when I'm already in the car.
Right.
I had another little road ragey experience a few days ago.
Really? Story of my life.
I thought, really?
And it wasn't like, this was a weird one because I think legally, I think I was in the wrong legally. But and I actually like, I did mean to bring this up today. Because I wanted to tell you guys about it. I was going to ask you, like, are you a road ragey person?
It depends on like what happens. But yeah, like there are times where I'm like, are you kidding me? And Navy goes, yeah. And he'll be in the back seat. That darn driver. What a dummy. And I'm like, oh, whoops. So like he gets, like if people cut me off.
Boy, you are way better at controlling your language around your child, apparently. Than
No,
I am.
I'm not. I'm just trying to make it seem like I'm a good mom.
Okay, good.
Good.
Because Navy's all like, fuck you, you fucking...
No, he's like, oh man, he at school, he's in preschool. I held him back a year, but so he at preschool, we had like our team meeting for him, and his teacher was like, oh, he did the cutest thing today. A marker cap got stuck and he couldn't figure out, how to really pull it off. And he goes, what the hell? I go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She goes, no, it was so innocent. I'm like, yeah, but I don't think it was.
Right.
So I go,
He was
Navy,
just choking back on what the fuck.
yeah, no, he doesn't say that, but, and he also like, I've discussed it with like another friend of mine that we would rather have our kids, I think, like if he has to express himself. I mean, I'm not saying like, oh yeah, it's cool that my 5-year-old swears, but like it'll randomly slip, and I would rather have him be like, what the hell, than, oh, she's a dummy, or like call names to kids.
Right.
So
What worked for
sure.
me was same thing that worked for my parents. It worked for me too. Your kids, you can't shelter your kids from swearing. Like your kids are going to hear that shit. Well, the best you can do is to make them understand that there's a time and a place for everything.
oh,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's all you can do,
Yeah.
because I think it's super unrealistic for people to just pretend like those words don't exist. And
Right.
and then because then I remember a kid that I grew up with when we were little. Like the rest of us would be like, man, fuck that, like just rattling off all kinds of cuss words, and he would just giggle his ass off. Thought it was the greatest thing, and I'm like, man, now there's like a novelty to it,
Yeah.
now like swearing is, this is so cool to him.
When I say to him, I'm like, Navy, that's a mommy word. We don't
And
say
it's
it.
his
He's
birthday today. Happy birthday.
like, happy birthday. But like with Navy, I say, like, oh, we don't talk like that. That's a mommy word, or that's a grandma word, or that's a Noah word. So, I don't know. They were dancing to Tupac the other day. So,
Well, that's a tough thing, too, because you start listening to music, and it's like...
Navy went
too.
through a Drake stage, so we had to like I had to download the edited. Unfortunately,
Man, who didn't? That last album was fire.
yeah. So Navy's like, that's a rollie, not a stopwatch, and he'll go like this, and he goes, never stop. That's the flow that got the block hot, super hot. I'm like, oh my gosh, Noah thinks it's the funniest thing. He's like, my nephew is kind of a little rapper, the little black kid, another little quarter black kid.
Good shit.
I remember the first time I swore. Maybe not the first time I swore, but I remember the first. This is what I remember. We were growing up on the farm. I was about 5 years old, and my dad and my uncle were building a hay rack. I don't know if you know what a hay rack is, but it's like a trailer that
Yep.
has big long sides so that the bales will
Yep.
get kicked back in there, and I had a job, and I had to go along, and I had to drill all these pilot holes, and they were all marked out, and so I had my little drill and everything, and my dad and uncle are just fucking cunt, fuck, shit, and so I drilled a hole, and I said fuck, and both my dad and uncle stopped and looked at me, but they didn't say anything.
You were working.
I was working,
Yeah,
right?
it was okay.
So I like drilled a couple more holes, and then I did another one, and I said shit. They both kind of stopped and looked at me, and just going on. And then, I went through my entire repertoire. And then at bed, I was like, this is awesome. So then every hole, I was like, cunt and whatever, everything. And then my dad never said anything until afterward. And we were getting cleaned up and getting ready to go in the house to eat. And he says, your language today. I was like, and I'm like, fuck, now I'm in trouble, And he's like, that's not for around your mom. And I was like,
Okay.
I got it.
That's fucking awesome.
Yep, that's all he said. And then it was only a few short months later, I was at school, and it was actually right around Thanksgiving, and I'm in kindergarten, and the assignment from the teacher was to draw a picture of the holidays. So some of the kids were, doing turkeys, and some of them were doing cornucopias, but I decided I was going to draw a picture of the that I saw in this book that we had at home of these Indian kids ice skating on the on a lake, naked, with dicks and boobs and the works, and so I like did it and whatever, and I got really pissed because the teacher like wouldn't hang it up, and apparently I called her a bitch. So so then I got in trouble, and my mom had to come into the school.
And you explained to her, this bitch wouldn't hang out my picture with these dicks and boobs and shit.
That was pretty much exactly what I said. So I go into school, and I'm just mortified. And my mom was, she was a big, kind of grumpy, mean, not mean, but like, I don't know, like.
She was tough.
She was tough.
And
Yep. She had this really gravelly voice. She, I will fucking gut you from your nose to your nuts, you know, that kind of thing. And so I was just petrified. And my mom comes stomping in there, and I'm like, fuck. And she goes into the principal's office with the teacher and the principal, and I'm sitting outside. And all of a sudden, she's just chewing some ass. And I was like, oh, fucking A, what's going on? And she comes stomping out, and she grabs me, and she goes, let's go. And then she's like stomping out of the car, and she's like, fucking bitch, never read a fucking book. So then we have like a little break, and we come back. Like a little break from school because it was Thanksgiving, and we come back, and I have my mom was like, you bring that bitch this book, and you show her this picture of these kids ice skating on the lake, you know. So I came in with the little book under my arm and gave it to my teacher, and I said, my mom wanted you to see this, and she looked at it and she goes, that's wonderful, Matthew. And then never a word again. I never got any trouble. So, yeah.
Nice.
Mom had my back.
you know, I think my dad had my back too much, because my dad was the one that, like, if I got in trouble, like, he would go in and take care of shit. But he always had my back, like when I was like little, and I mean that, and I think that led to some weird shit, you know, like growing up kind of violent, you know, like because like it was my dad always got such a kick out of it that I loved, like, these, because he was a big Westerns guy, and I love like the knockdown, drag out, like barroom brawls and shit like that. Like I love watch fistfights and Westerns and stuff. And I got to watch a lot of violent shit. And my dad got a huge kick out of it, that I was so excited, you know, I'm jumping up and down, and, you know, like during these fight scenes and shit. Yeah, and I did turn into kind of a violent kid, you know, like not horribly, you know, I wasn't like fucking, you know, I didn't hurt anyone, you know, I did beat the ass off a couple of kids, but you know, and he would come in, and I would not get in trouble, and he'd always be like, rah, 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 you know, like always have my back, which I appreciate, you know, but at the same time, I'm always like, you know, is that cool though? Like, pretty sure I was, you know, but, you know, he was like, well, not my kid.
Oh,
but,
man.
You know,
That's okay, though.
He was kind of one of those. I mean, I guess I turned out something. Yeah.
So when you grew up, both your mom and your dad were together the whole time, right?
Still are, yeah.
Yeah. And mine too.
I just had a Tina.
You just had a Tina?
I had a Tina, and then it was really weird. We had a Mike, and we had a Mike, and Mike was one of my mom's has been one of my mom's best friends for, like, let's see, I'm 30, so probably like 38 years. So yeah, Noah and I refer to him as our white dad. So we have our white dad Mike. We had our Tina, and then our white dad Mike.
You know, she seems really like, I mean, and just, you know,
she was pretty salty. She was pretty salty that I got to come on here first. Just saying. So,
well, she seems really well equipped. Like, it seems as though she was really well equipped to take on, you know, that challenge. Not everyone can do all of it. You know, like some single moms are like so good at one side, and, you know, like the terrible disciplinarian but really good nurturer,
mm-hmm.
you know, like stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Run into that stuff a lot. Then every once in a while somebody's just fucking good at all that shit, and that's super, you know, I'm super impressive.
So I don't know when you guys booked this, but I just thought of something. So Tina called me on Saturday, and I was working at the bar. But I don't answer my fucking phone. And Tina knows I don't answer my phone. I haven't answered my phone in years. And like,
But she knows that
you just have to text me.
that you would, or that you would call her back if it was something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but she didn't leave a message either. She just called me twice in a row. And I was like, wonder what the fuck Tina wants. So I actually messaged Meta and I said, do you have any idea why Tina Anderson's calling me? And she goes, I have no idea. And I was like, weird. And she goes, well, call her back. And I was like, no, fuck that. She can leave me a message. She can text me. I'm good. I don't
Did she ever respond?
But I bet she knew you were going to be on
Probably.
the podcast and she was calling to give me shit.
Well, and then both her and Noah were like, don't embarrass us. You're so embarrassing. Don't talk about us.
Yeah, you don't have to talk about us. We will talk about that.
Yeah, and then I'll
We
just
got this.
respond. Tina, Noah.
Oh shit.
Noah is
Oh shit, what?
Oh, I forgot. I was going to get your guys' opinion on my road rage thing.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, get back to it.
Man, these fucking tangents that we like, these little rabbit holes and shit.
That's okay.
Next thing you
It's
know,
great.
we're like, and that was the first time I got the clap. I'm driving along. There's this girl, like, she's driving really aggressive, but she's behind me. She's crowded me, and I'm trying to get out of her way anyway.
was she in
'cause
a
I need
white
to get in.
Volkswagen? Because it might have been me if it was.
No,
okay.
no.
Okay.
And she's behind me. I'm trying to get in the right lane. I'm in the left lane. This is driving through town, not on the fucking highway. I wasn't being a slow ass. We're in traffic, and I'm signaling so she knows, like, okay, back up off me. Like, I'm fucking, I'm trying to get out of your way, babe. So I've got my signal on, and slowly the car next to me is going by, and I'm like, look, I know, fucking, she's like pressing me, and I'm like, I'm trying to get over. So just as the car gets like far enough by me that I can get over,
She cuts.
yeah, she's not signaling, but boop, and I'm like, well, fuck you. So I join her in that lane, and she has to hit her brakes and shit. So I know that legally, like, yeah, I would be the guy, although Minnesota's a no-fault state, which is the fucking stupidest expression ever, because fuck that. So I know, like, legally, that my bad. But I also feel like you knew where I was going,
She was just
like,
being a
you're
dick.
being a little asshole. And, like, and I saw her, like, in the window, and I'm like, and I don't flip anybody off. Fuck that.
But you did it.
I didn't, but I mean, like, my crazy gesturing and shit, I think pretty much told the story. And I'm like, fuck you, like, you want to be a fucking asshole, like, that's an asshole move. And, and
So-
besides, it's not like I thought she was going to fucking, like, take the hit, like, I knew she was going to hit her brakes.
So did your grandbaby boo-boo in the passenger seat give her the bird then, or?
No, I haven't taught him that yet. We're working on it. He's still, like, flailing around with the arms and
How
stuff.
old is he now?
It's like 3 months.
Okay.
I just started reading to him.
Okay.
Which is like, I don't know, that's probably like whatever. It's just sounds to him, obviously. He's
Oh
3
no, I
months
think
old.
it's super
No,
important.
it's super important.
See, I feel like it is. Like, I'm like, is this like too young to bother with this kind of shit? But like, if I'm if I'm gonna read something anyway, I mean, I'm not reading him kids' books. Like, anything I happen to be reading, I'm gonna read to him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, okay, Penthouse Forum. Like, okay, no, not that. But
Nobody reads.
right. Yeah, just write that shit. I already know what it says.
I used to read, well, I mean, I still do read to Navy, not as often, not like an every night thing as we should, because once again, remember, I'm not like the best trophy mom. But he has activities at night, and like when he has hockey, we don't get home until like 8:30, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I have a sociopath. I need to just get him the hell to bed. Here's your melatonin, go to bed.
Your 6-year-old has hockey?
Mm-hmm. He's a
What?
good little skater. Yeah, he's a
you
mini
got to be
Mike.
on skates early.
Oh yeah.
When my kid, like Gordy was like 9 or something when I mentioned when I considered putting him in hockey, and the guy that I was talking to was a hockey coach. It was when I worked out at the Hallett Center, and he was like, "How long has he been skating?" And I'm like, "He barely skates, but I mean, he can pick it up." And he's like, "If he hasn't been skating since he's like 3, forget about it." And I'm like,
Really?
"Get the fuck out of here."
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
Navy.
Which I fucking hate that sport anyway. I'm glad I'm glad that was a fucking passing
I
thing.
wish that
I bet
he
we could
didn't-
probably get Navy a fight with Mike Wall. if he can skate.
Oh, he's a good little skater, but he just doesn't really grasp the game yet. So you'll see mine just kind of dinging around looking for butterflies.
Well, I mean, that's, like I coached a lot of little kids football and shit like that. And that, I mean, even a little bit older, like it's really fucking hard to, they're out there picking daisies and shit. I'm like you got deep third.
And that's what, so Noah will come with to practice because Noah used to skate. So like Noah really likes to get him geared up to go on the ice, and I'll be there and I'm like, Navy, get the puck. Navy, get the puck. And Noah's like, dude, he's not an NHL player. Simmer down. We'll watch him skate. He loves it. I'm like, gosh, okay, fine. But yeah, so he started last year. We tried soccer and he had like a full on anxiety attack.
In soccer?
Yeah, Navy was diagnosed with autism when he was 2.5. So we kind of do things a little bit differently. So we started off with sports last year when he was 4, and I was like, well, everybody does soccer. I think that soccer might be a good one for him because he's a fast runner and he likes to be outside. And I knew all of the parents, so then I could awkwardly socialize. So he did really well with practices, but his first game, he had like a straight up anxiety attack. So if anybody's ever been to like the Baxter soccer fields, probably not, but on Saturday mornings in the fall, if you have a child between the ages of like 3 and 9 and they play soccer. So it's the entire community with all of their kids. And I'm walking mine through the park to try to figure out like what team or what quarter of the field they're on. And I hear him behind me say, oh, Navy, pull up your pants. Oh, Navy, pull up your pants. It's time to go. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, let's just first soccer. First, Navy, first we're going to play soccer, and then we can go. He goes, no, it's time to go. It's time to go. It's time to go. Navy, pull up your pants. Navy, pull up your pants. It's time to go. And I turn around and I look, and then there's my kid walking with his pants, all of his pants down to his ankles, walking through the park saying, it's time to go. It's time to go. Bare butt, his little baby junk hanging out with all of these parents around. My mom comes walking in and she's like, yay, it's soccer. Oh my gosh, his pants are down. I'm like, oh man.
So I don't know that much about soccer. That's not part of the game?
Nope, that's not. So we had a great coach that first year who she was a kindergarten teacher, and I kind of let her know ahead of time, yeah, he's got some anxiety. He's on the spectrum. He might just need a little extra nurturing. So she's like, yep, I can handle it. So she kind of took him, and he got to kick the ball one time, and then we were done with soccer games. We would still go to practice, but I had already signed him up for hockey, and I was like, shoot, if that's what it's going to be like for soccer, what am I going to be dealing with for hockey? So we took him to the rink. He did the try hockey for free, and Coach Lisa from soccer was there, and she goes, I got him. So she took him and got him fit for equipment.
Who is this wonderful lady?
Lisa Roberts. She's a kindergarten teacher at, I want to say Harrison. And she's fantastic, like absolutely fantastic.
I like her already. We should have her on the show.
No,
we shouldn't. She sounds like a nice lady.
She's great. She's fantastic. So she took him and put him on the ice, and she goes, with me being close to him, that's when he's like, okay, because he knows how to act up for me to just crumble and be like, okay, it's time to go. Everybody's looking at me.
Right.
So she's like, you might want to go up in the bleachers and then watch. I'm like, yeah, okay. So we'll just kind of play it by ear. So they put him on the ice, and then there he went. He had never been on skates before, and he's skating, and he's like, Mom, I'm doing it. I'm playing the hockey. I'm skating. So yeah, he did. He was a mini mite last year. Now he's a mini mite this year. And
well, good. I hope he likes it and sticks with it, because for your sake, I mean,
Noah's really,
hockey is cheap.
Hockey is very cheap, especially as a single parent. Noah is pushing for him to do wrestling and jiu-jitsu. So Navy kind of rolls with Noah right now. I mean, who better to teach him than trophy child Noah? So
Trophy child.
Well, besides,
it's not like he's an accomplished athlete or anything in the sport.
Well, and they're pretty equal in size.
Oh yeah. So they are.
But working with me out at the bar, Noah deals with, like we deal with so many like hockey players, so many NHL players and stuff like that, like during the summer and whatnot. Noah probably wants to get him away from that as soon as possible.
Noah's like, it's great that he can skate, but we should.
Those fucking guys.
Yeah, he's like, and I know, like, I went to college with some of them, so like I know them. And he's like, I can't believe you were friends with them in college. I'm like, well, let's just be clear. Like, I was never cool enough to be like friends with the players, but like we hung out at the same party, and I said hi.
They just like pulled your shirt off and punched you in the face.
Yes. So, but I can't skate to save my life. So. But yeah, so Navy is going to, he's doing wrestling and takedown. His first night is now on Wednesday. So we'll do a couple of wrestling practices there and see how he likes it. So
it's interesting that you said, there's a lot of things in that I wanted to unpack. Ooh, I just used a buzzword.
Unpack?
Yeah, saying there's things I want to unpack.
We got a lot of little boxes.
But one thing that you mentioned, Kyle, was that if you don't learn to skate at a young age, like it's like, it's not that you can't learn to skate, but you're never going to like be like whatever, which is interesting because that is like, I find that to be true of a lot of different things. We talk about that with wrestling all the time, that like, we were talking about Philip the other day or whatever, but like if you didn't wrestle when you were young, it's really, really hard to like, to do that
unless you're like, just like natural.
Unless you're like GSP or Tony Martin or whatever. But
wrestling was probably my most natural sport. Mm-hmm. Not that I've ever been good at any sport.
That's how I was with
just
dance.
Like, it's like the least, for me, I might have been like the least terrible at that had I like done it every year, like stuck with it.
I only wrestled 1 year in 4th grade, and my best friend, because I always like try to make best friends with the toughest guy I can find, and my best friend was the toughest guy I could find in 4th grade. His name is Terry Skira, and he was a stud wrestler. And he was like, you got to go wrestling with me. And I was like, okay. And I mean, I was a little chubby kid and like whatever. And I fucking sucked. And I only won one match, and it was against a girl. And she whooped the shit out of me. The first tournament that I went to, and I lost everybody else. And the whole year I was just like, if I could see that bitch again. And I worked and I pinned her.
Good job.
Well, combat sports are weird because of any point system and shit. Like wrestling was weird because I'm like, man, I fucked that dude up on the playground every day, and I just lost by points.
Right.
Like, how the fuck did that happen? But
Yeah. So that was one thing. So it's just interesting how it does take like or like sitting down on your punches too, like like learning to actually punch. If you don't like learn to punch at a young age, it's tough to do. I just listened to a really interesting podcast, Joe Rogan and Mike Tyson, and it's a ways back there, but oh my God, that was a super interesting podcast. And Mike Tyson's quite an interesting guy.
He is, man. I mean, he's the butt of a lot of jokes and stuff. But, man,
when you listen to him, like he tells a hell of a story. He's actually really articulate.
I was going to say, he's not the dummy that people think that he is.
Not even a little bit, no. And it's just really interesting because he, I don't know. But you should go check it out. Just type in Joe Rogan, Mike Tyson. That's great.
Some of our favorite podcasts, like Joe Rogan, Matthew Colville. We're kind of all over the place, obviously. Matthew Colville's a super he does like Dungeons and Dragons podcasts and stuff.
I just know that game from Stranger Things. Like that's it. That's like
we didn't talk about that. They Stranger Things is responsible for like this huge resurgence.
Yeah, because like the books and everything, like those kids, like we were those kids. I mean, that shit is like our fucking lives. I mean, the bicycles and we talked about this before, like the stuff that you see like in those kids' houses and shit like that is amazing because it's all like real shit. Like the stuff that was in our houses,
on
in
the
our
shelf,
friends' houses, and like this old fucking rotary telephone, like that particular phone and all this shit.
I was dating somebody once who was older than me, and I'm like, we should watch this show Stranger Things. It's from like your childhood. And he was super offended.
Because he wasn't that much older than you?
Well, he was, but he was like, I can't believe you are like trying to make me feel so much older than you. I'm like, well.
Oh, dude, I loved Stranger Things. I mean,
so
like,
good.
and that was part of what I liked about it so much was that it was like
the nostalgia.
But I was in Target the other day, and I was like, they had a pretty sizable collection of D&D books in fucking Target. And I was like, bam, that's like
warmed my heart.
It warmed my heart too.
Target's a great store. They have everything.
Well, it's just that if you wanted D&D books, man, you had to like go and like
Tom's Pet and Hobby.
Yep, make a deal with the devil. You had to endure. You had to endure an abusive fucking parrot.
Yeah, when you walk in the fucking door. So Tom's Pet and Hobby used to be what now is it VIP?
Sure,
the
Downtown?
place,
VIP
Okay.
floor. Yeah,
So Tom's Pet and Hobby used to be downtown, and like it was the greatest thing ever when I was a kid, and we'd come into town. And if my parents had shit going on, if they had to go down, you know, if we were going downtown for anything, there was two places. There was the Smoke Bookshop, which was
what?
the Smoke and Bookshop. They sold tobacco and used books.
Oh, yes.
And they sold comic books and regular books. And now, like, that's why to this day, like, I love the smell of
Pipe tobacco.
Pipe tobacco. And because it reminds me of like books and the time that I would spend like fucking browsing through these books and fucking reading comic books and shit, and like going there and like, you know, because you could buy shit really cheap, and going there and buying like used comics and used books and all this stuff, and of that smell. Like, I fucking love that smell to this day. I've been meaning, you can buy incense.
And that's like
Pipe
the
tobacco scented
parlor.
incense.
That's like the parlor now, I think.
It
It would either be that or it would be the Great
I don't
Wall.
even remember. I'll have to ask
or whatever that was. And then that was one, and then Tom's Pet and Hobby was the other one,
was
which
the
was this
dopest fucking store,
which
like
was
in my back then.
a shit shop. I mean, it had
Very tiny gaming section.
but it had
the only
a
one in
little
town.
bit of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it had a little bit of everything. You know, anything from like
Cool fish, like their big aquarium
they
area
had-
and
That's
shit.
cool.
But the main thing was they had this humongous cage right in the center of it with this ginormous parrot that was abusive.
Oh, he was such an asshole, and he terrified me because that beak was fucking enormous. Like those things are crazy. Those
Yeah.
are big fucking.
I think he was a
birds.
macaw, right?
Okay. If it was the red colorful
I think
bird,
he was
or
like the pirate parrot. It's really scraping my memory, but I'm pretty sure he was a macaw.
Yeah, a macaw's a
But he
pirate
would
parrot.
say, he would just be like, shut up, and like that's all he would say was just offensive, mean things, and it was love that story.
Tina got a bird once. Did you know about that? When my mom randomly got a bird. Oh yeah, it was the weirdest thing. She randomly got a bird. She wanted a bird that would speak, so she got an African gray.
Oh Jesus Christ, they're like super duper expensive. They live like 70 years.
She named him Papa Chique because I don't know why. And
Seems like a mouthful for a fucking bird. You know?
we should just talk about like all of Tina's pets' names. She'll get a dog. She had this dog named Cricket. It was a rescue Yorkie, and its name was Cricket. And she felt bad for it because she didn't think it felt pretty, so she started calling her Pretty, and then Pretty turned into Little Pretty, and then Oodle Tootie, and then Tootie. Like the dog's name was Tootie.
God, she talks baby talks to her pets, doesn't
Tootie.
she?
Dude, no, like she doesn't talk baby talk. She just
Oh, she
makes up
doesn't.
these weird names. So Tootie.
Because judging by those names, I would have thought.
Nope. So like at
Sorry,
the vet, like they would be like, 2D, because how do you spell the name Tootie? You don't. You just do a number 2 and a letter D, and that was the dog's name at the vet.
Well,
But-
speaking of how you spell names, I mean,
know.
come on.
Mine's a family name. There's like 4 of us. But yeah, so my mom got this random bird when I was in high school, and he was the worst. He hated me, and I think it was because I just didn't want to hold him because he freaked me out with his like creepy little feet.
Well,
And he would mimic voices. So my mom ended up getting rid of him, finding him a responsible home. But he mimicked, Noah was probably 4 or 5 at the time. And my mom was sleeping, and she woke up to, Mommy, help, Mommy.
The
And
fuck outta here.
it was
The
when
bird was-
It was when we lived at the lake, so she thought that Noah was, and it was summertime, so like the windows were open.
bird's last day.
So she thought that my brother was like outside at the dock falling in, and she was like, what? Like jumped out of bed, and the bird was just screaming, help, Mom, help. So she screamed, running around, Noah. Like if you're out of like a straight, like she was sleeping hard, and
Yeah.
this bird, and it turned out it was the bird. And then he goes, Papa Chique, good boy, because that's what she would always say to him. Papa Chique, good boy.
So like at one point in my life, I really considered getting a parrot. And I don't know what the fuck I was thinking because I don't even really like birds.
No, they're weird.
But I have the tendency to do a lot of research before I do anything, and I started looking into like the responsibility. And I mean, it totally talked me out of it. Like, first of all, they are ridiculously intelligent, so and emotional. So like, it's like having a child. They live about 60 to 70 years. So it's a lifetime commitment.
60 to 70 fucking
they don't
years.
die.
Yeah. I mean, they can even live longer than that.
Man, I thought my house cat was a fucking big bird. I mean, no, actually, I love that cat. He had a fucked up name too. His name was a big old tomcat, handsome cat, but his name was General Sterling Price. From which was okay before True Grit, the new True Grit came out. The old True Grit with John Wayne.
Okay, yep.
His cat was named General Sterling Price, and that's why I got that. But yeah, so he had a fucked up name, but 60 or 70 fucking years. That's a life partner,
and it's a life partner, and they have like they're emotional, but they're emotionally stunted. So like they get attached to people.
So they fucking vote Republican
they
too.
only like Tina.
Right. Or like, let's say you get one and you're like, you're a family of a husband and a wife, and you get one and then you have a baby. That fucking parent might hate the baby, might try to kill the baby,
Well, babies have it too fucking easy. Babies should learn to defend themselves.
Wow,
and
bird away.
This is an animal that can fairly easily bite a finger off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, man, like that bird that was always I give that bird a fucking wide berth when I walked into Tom's.
There was a story, the story that where I was like, okay, I'm done, was and I don't know if this is 100% true, but when I read it seemed to be true, but it was this couple that or this lady, I think it was a lady who got a parrot, and they had it for years, and then she started seeing this guy, and the fucking parrot bit his dick off while he was sleeping.
The fuck out of here.
Yep.
Chike was able to like get out of his cage once, and she didn't have his wings clipped, or he was able to fly. And I'm watching The Simple Life because it's like with Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie back in like 2006.
Oh my God, it should have pecked your fucking eyes out.
I ended up naming a dog Paris because I thought that was cool, and then my friends and I would be like, "Oh, that's hot." Oh, that's so embarrassing.
That's so hot right now.
But yeah, so all of a sudden I'm like watching the show with my friends, and this bird is like whipping around the sunroom, and we're screaming because we think he's gonna land or poop in our hair, and he ends up gliding into the kitchen. So he like goes up a couple stairs, like through like around a fireplace, through a dining room, and lands on the kitchen counter, but in like she had like a frying pan out. And I was like, damn it, I wish that thing was like turned. Like it was like an electric frying pan. And I was like, damn it. My mom was like, oh no, Chike, how'd you get out? Antje, did you let my bird out? I'm like, no, I don't go anywhere near your bird. I hate your bird. I avoid your bird.
And your bird hates you. And another thing, and then let's move off of parrots, but also they're
nightmares about
imported,
bird bite my dick.
from Africa and from a bunch of places. It's not a good choice for an animal. So
get a golden doodle,
or don't.
Just kidding. Don't get a golden.
What's
doodle.
a golden doodle?
That's what I have. She's like the worst kind of
dog.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's a part golden retriever, part poodle.
So it's like a giant athletic poodle.
Yeah, but she just looks like she's straight up poodle, and I think she's a little bit lime bred. I think that she was inbred a bit. She's special. I love her to death, though. Phoebe, Keeks, we call her Keeks.
Why does everything in your life have multiple names?
Because it's just how I grew up. We just...
Hey.
Or Navy, when we got her, he couldn't say Phoebe, so we called her Beebige, and then that sounded ridiculous. And then he switched it to like Skype, Bige, Geich.
See, it happens.
Super weird. And then we just decided to call her Keeks. So that's just her name.
Look at the baby, Milo became Chewy. And then I decided I didn't like Chewy. So he became Boo Boo. And then Boo Boo was turned into Boobs, the Boo, or B to the Izu. I mean, I'm fucking annoying like that.
What the fuck is wrong with you people?
Navy has many names too. Navy, Nave, Felicia. I call him Robert sometimes
Hey,
too.
Okay,
what about
yours
Noah?
aren't even close.
Noah's nickname is Kip. You can call him Kip. Ever since he was a baby.
Kip's a good one. That's not exciting though. There's nothing.
What else do we call him? I don't know.
Oh, wait, have I ever told? Did I ever mention? Have I talked about like how Noah got his name tag? How I picked his name tag for him at work?
Danger. Navy wears the Danger name tag. Navy will walk around the house and he's like, "I'm Danger. I'm going to the Z. I'm gonna go work. I'm going to work, Mom." And I'm like, "The heck you are."
I was pretty proud of that one because Noah, like, if you were just some schmuck off the street, you wouldn't look at like a room full of guys and look at Noah and be like, that dude's fucking dangerous.
Right. And we haven't like even described that. So Antje's little brother.
My little brother. Yep, we're 10 years apart.
You guys are 10 years apart?
Oh, I was so pissed when my mom told me she was having a baby. I go, what do you mean? She goes, well, I mean, you're gonna have a little brother or sister. I go, so what? I'm not gonna be the princess anymore? Whose idea was this? What is this about? And then
that explains all the attempts that you made on his life.
So no,
that's why he turned out so tough.
That's why he had to go to jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
And you know, I was not a nice older sister to him, like growing up. And I mean, looking back now, I'm like, oh, like you turned out like you're not that bad. Like I won't send you back. But my mom would say to me when he was like younger, one day your little brother will be able to kick your ass. And I'm like, psh, yeah, right. That little nerd. And it was about, I think, there's a video. I ended up posting a video on Facebook. I was visiting from college, and Noah, when he was probably like 11 or 12, would always say like, let me show you what I learned in jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what you learned at jiu-jitsu. And he put me in this weird choke where like I was choking myself and his ankles were around my neck and I'm like tapping and I can't breathe and I'm trying to tap. And he's like, I'm like 22 and he's like 11 and I'm like standing up and dropping him trying to tap and he's just choking me out. And I'm like, this is how I tap. Finally, my mom was like, let her go. She's turning purple, which doesn't happen easily if you are of a darker skin tone. But yeah, so little Noah, like then, and I didn't really realize like how gifted he was like as a fighter until I went to one of his matches, and it was after I had Navy, and he was competing against an adult as like a juvenile, a green belt.
Yeah.
And the way he moved with this like adult blue belt and I'm like, oh my gosh, there were people behind me that were like, that's Noah Anderson. Oh, that's Noah Anderson fighting. And I'm like, who gives a shit?
Well, he's super fast. You know, like sometimes like I watched a guy slap him one time. And like it was like just over so fast. I'm like, fuck, I blinked and I missed half that shit. Like, and I was just like, good Lord, that was abrupt. You know, like just, I'm like, that's hard to defend. I mean, could barely see that shit with the naked eye. So the name tag, you know, like he doesn't look, you know, intimidating. He's smallish. He's pretty. You know, he's very.
He looks just like my kid. It's weird. It's weird. They look a lot alike.
But you know, he's a handsome little guy, and but yeah, and then I'm like, well, I know guys are gonna try him. Guys are clearly gonna fuck with him.
Yeah.
Like, but here's this. So this makes me feel like they've been warned, you know? So I'm like, if they think this is funny, that's okay.
Well, somebody called him Dancer this summer. Were you there when somebody was like, what's your name tag? Says Dancer. And Noah was like, what'd you say it said? And then the guy was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It says Danger. I'm sorry. I think that Noah ended up like putting him in some type of an arm lock or.
Well, hopefully it wasn't for that.
No, it was something else. But yeah.
No, I know it wasn't for that.
So Noah was like a tiny little kid, very small.
He was 8 when he started.
And he started doing jiu-jitsu when he was about 8 years old. And he, you know, I don't know what analogy you want to use, but he took to it like a fish to water. And
kind of a prodigy.
He was the smallest kid always in our group of kids. So he was always working up, you know, and most everybody was a couple of years older than him too. Mm-hmm. So he was always having to like just fight these big guys, and then he started competing, and it was like, oh, when you put him against somebody his own size, he kicks the shit out of him.
Oh yeah.
And then he went on to like be you know,
he's
fought some world championships,
like multiple championships. Yep. They were gone when I went into labor, he was at some type of competition. He was 14 at the time with my mom in California, and I was here. I had just moved back to Brainerd, but my doctor had put me on bed rest for whatever reason. And the day they got back,
did he bring the baby an arm?
No. He did win though. He did win. And I think he like sweeped his division out in California or something, but their flight got delayed. My mom flew in super early on like the morning of the 18th. I went in for a doctor appointment the morning of the 18th. And then my doctor was like, okay, so we're going to induce you today. And I'm like, what do you mean? So I don't know where I was going with that, but Noah then, like after Navy, Noah was at the hospital, like, because when they induce you to have a baby, like you have a baby like 4 days later. So, I mean, I was there for a while, but Noah came up to the hospital.
They're more like enticing you.
Yeah, they're like, okay.
It's more of an invitation than anything.
And but yeah, so I mean, Noah was there right after like Navy was born, and I had to go down for surgery. But when I came to and like realized like, oh, I've got a bunch of people here, Noah was like, this is the coolest little person ever, and I'm gonna raise him.
It is kind of adorable. Like I'm on Facebook. I'm all up in there stalking.
I'm very active on social media. So
as am I. But yeah, the whole uncle thing, like he is super embraced that. Mm-hmm. It's really adorable.
Yeah. Well, Navy's dad's not around. So Noah, was like, well, not even so much like stepping up as a dad, but just as a positive male role model.
Right.
I didn't know what I was going to do when I found out I was having a boy. I'm like, what? I'm going to have to learn how to do football? Like, what is this about? But, yeah, I mean, I really wouldn't change anything. So everything works out exactly how it's supposed to. But
you guys got a tight knit bunch.
Well, at some point, we're definitely going to have Noah on. So we don't want to sit and talk about Noah endlessly. But
Noah's a pilot now. Noah is a pilot.
Yeah.
Noah is a little. So
I don't know.
Oh yeah, you know what? This is the other thing that's kind of interesting and awesome about Noah is that he was on. And I hope that they don't get mad about me saying this, but Noah was on an IEP, so an individualized education plan throughout school. So he needed extra services and extra support. And I think he was in the 5th grade, and one of his 5th grade teachers told my mom, you will be lucky if he, works at McDonald's. Like if he just works at McDonald's.
Yeah, I love those fucking teachers.
If he just works at McDonald's, you should be very proud of your son. Because that's where he's at. And my mom's like, what do you mean? Like, what are you saying? Because Noah's very intelligent. Very intelligent. Sharp. But like, the way that, like, who cares about 5th grade math? I was in Calc 2 in college and I don't use it. Like, it's not important. But so to see all of the people that told him and like my mom for so long, like he can't and he won't, he's a pilot. Like he flies planes.
It's interesting that you say that he was on an IEP because like the way like school teaches people stuff is a way that is exactly the opposite of the way that jiu-jitsu teaches you things. Jiu-jitsu is a system called a show-do. So I show it to you, then you do it. I show it to you, then you do it. And a show-do system is like lends itself to a certain style of learning that's completely different than our traditional style of learning. And so it makes complete sense to me that Noah had a hard time learning in school and then yet could pick up. And the motherfucker,
or
I'm
flying.
not kidding. Same
thing.
It's a show do though.
Yeah.
It's learning anything that is hands-on that you, even if it's complicated, you can like see it and then you can do it.
And that's how Navy is too.
Noah, I've always been jealous of his ability to take a look at something, see it once or twice and be like, got it.
Well, and his flight instructor here, I was at Starbucks doing computer work or something. This was last year. And this man I recognized, I mean, I deal with a lot of people anyway, and I'm always just like, hey, how's it going? Because I don't know exactly who you are right away until it clicks. So he came up to me and he said, oh, you're Noah Anderson's sister. And I'm like, yeah, like I've heard that before. And he goes,
I'm also a real human with my own identity.
I'm also a real estate agent. Are you looking to buy or sell? But he said, he goes, I just have to tell you that your brother, he goes, I've been teaching for, 20, 30 plus years. And he goes, and your brother is one of the most naturally gifted pilots I've ever had the pleasure of flying with. And I'm like, Noah? Noah? So yeah, we've got big hopes and dreams for him. Because if he becomes a Delta pilot, friends and family fly for fees and taxes wherever I want to go. So I say to him,
I was trying to convince my son the other day that he should go work at the movie theater because I found out that if you work at the movie theater, your family gets free popcorn and movies. And I was like, you definitreally need to go work at the movie theater. Yeah. He's like, I don't know. And I was like, no, you definitely do. I'll drive you over there.
That would be great.
I really want to move on from Noah. I just want to say one more thing is that like I always think try to describe that little special thing that people have that where it's like it goes from being like, man, they're really good at that to that's fucking magic.
Their particular shine.
Yeah, the way I've always described it is pixie dust, and like Noah definitely has that little bit of pixie dust where it's like I know a lot of people can do a lot of cool things, especially even in the world of jiu-jitsu. This is the world I live in. But it's a different thing watching somebody do it with this like just ridiculous grace. It's like watching a ballerina versus somebody who can really fucking dance.
Hey, thank you.
And why are you a ballerina?
I was, yes.
Because I wasn't complimenting you. It was all in
But,
but yeah. So, okay, that's enough buttering Noah's bread. He also, it's probably hard enough for him to like manage getting through doors and hallways as it is. So we don't need to make his head any bigger.
That's another genetic of the Anderson family, is that we all have like truly like our heads are bigger, like are too big for our bodies.
Noah's the only kid I know who actually like drags along like a fucking like a little, what is that? Radio flyer, like a little radio flyer cart, to
like
carry his ego.
Oh,
I love the kid.
That's my little brother.
Okay. Jumping subjects.
Okay.
You had mentioned that your son, it was diagnosed with autism.
Yes.
So tell me about like how that worked and what that means.
Oh gosh. Okay. So when we went in, so my son will be 6 in February. When we went in for his 2-year well child appointment, he wasn't speaking. He had tubes put in before that just because he has like standing fluid in his ears. But there were other things that we were all kind of noticing that Navy did that was weird. He had, at 2 years old, he wasn't speaking, but he was obsessed down here with the lines. So like with,
okay, we need to explain that.
Oh yeah. Sorry. This is my old house.
Yes. So oddly enough, the spitballing studio is in Antje's old house.
Mm-hmm. So like I don't want to divulge too much information about where we're located because it's too
the lair.
So a lot of people grow up in a bat cave.
So so in the lair down here, there's some stone and brick, and the patterns and the lines, between the two, he would fixate on and follow. So he would, just kind of walk around in circles and follow lines. Same with like any type of wood flooring or where the wall would meet the floor. So just weird, different, interesting quirks with that. Because of his speech delay and his developmental delay, he qualified for services through the Paul Bunyan Co-op here through Brainerd Schools. Okay. So we had a speech therapist and an occupational therapist come into the house twice a week to work with him, try to get him to start speaking. We found out that he was 85% deaf in both ears due to standing fluids and his tubes falling out. So we had tubes put in again for the second time, and then the third time, fourth time, fifth time, and he'll go in now for his 6th set of tubes in December or January.
Is that like as they grow, do they get like is that a growth thing? Like they get bigger and the tubes get loose? And
yeah. And I guess I don't really know. I wasn't that good of a fake doctor.
I'm just guessing.
Of an undergrad doctor.
I had tubes in my ears when I was a kid.
So, and Noah had them a lot too, but with Navy, we were already working with a developmental delay due to standing fluid in his ear, making him not able to hear. So anytime his tubes fell out, my biggest fear was, now we're going to have standing fluid again, and we're not going to catch it until, it's too late. And then so every time his tubes fall out, we make an appointment to have his tubes put back in. So, but,
so how is his hearing today?
Oh, he can hear. He just acts like he can't hear.
He is a man. So that makes sense.
We get it tested every year, and he passes now. But so when he was, he started in an early childhood special education school classroom, and his teacher had come up to me. He started school in October, and his teacher it was January, and she came up to me, and I said, I know what you're going to tell me. So she goes, well, let's talk about it. I go, we don't really need to talk about it. I know that you're going to tell me that you think that he is on the spectrum, and I just want to know, in your opinion, where is the best place in the state to get him evaluated. So we made an appointment.
How old was he now?
That would have been, was going to be turning 3.
Okay.
So I made an appointment with Frazier out of Minneapolis, and it took months to get into. So I made that appointment then in that January, February timeframe of 2017-ish.
Sounds right.
Yeah, I don't know.
If he's 35 now.
Yeah. And then he went in then for his big, assessment, and it was like a 4-hour test that I have to sit there and watch these people try to interact with my kid and play with my kid and have him kind of not play how a child of his age should be playing. And when they took him out and they sat me down and they said, well, we'll mail you the actual packet, but yes, your son is, showing signs of being on the autism spectrum. And it wasn't so much, it's a hard thing. And it's not like a negative thing. I don't go like, oh, well, like we have like he's on the spectrum, and like, it's not even like a pity thing, but you have these goals and these things for your, you have your hopes and dreams and wishes for your kids, and life is hard enough as it is. So to add in, an extra barrier, an extra hurdle, especially at such a young age, and I still get kind of weepy and I'm going to awkwardly start crying.
Perfect. We like to cry.
We do that too. We'll cry with you.
So,
if you start, we're fucked. We're just going to sit here and bulk.
So, when you have to, adjust and reevaluate the situation and then say, moving forward, now this is what our life is going to look like. It was hard. I had friends with kids similar in age to mine who could, just go and play at the park, and mine would just run the lines of the playground.
Right.
Or would, like fixate on, oh gosh, the weirdest stuff, like the basketball lines at a basketball court. He would fixate on these crazy things, and he wouldn't play with other kids. And so it was just really hard for me. And I actually handled it pretty well. In the grand scheme of things, I cried aggressively like that day that we got the diagnosis.
I like that. Cried aggressively.
Aggressively. I called my mom aggressively ugly crying, and she's like, it doesn't change anything.
I also love the term ugly crying.
Oh, you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, we know well.
Oh yeah. So
we're almost experts in it.
I'm the queen of the ugly cry. But so I cried really hard that day, and I just wanted to, and I did. I'm very vocal and active on all forms of social media, almost probably to a fault. But I knew that there were other people that were probably going through something similar with their own child, and early intervention is key. So I put it out there. This is what we're dealing with. Then we drove home from Minneapolis that day, and I arrived home to a basket, and my favorite flowers are peonies, and it was June, so it was peony season, to baskets of peonies with all of these word letters saying, if anybody can handle this, you can, and there's no better parent for that little boy than you, and you have a tribe behind you. So we went with that, and we went, I just took that, and I'm like, okay, so now I'm using it as a platform, to say, Paul Bunyan Co-op is great, and but don't be afraid of any type of terms or labels. So yes, we do have that autism label, but it opened the door for outpatient speech, occupational therapy, massage therapy.
So I think that's a really good point, that I think that parents sometimes want their children to be normal, right? Which to me,
what is normal?
Sounds like a fucking some kind of venereal disease, but they want their children to be normal, and they're afraid that if they get their children evaluated, then something's going to be wrong with them. Well, guess what? A, nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
But B, if you don't get your child evaluated, that same thing is there.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a difference whether or not you get your child evaluated. It actually can only help.
Yeah, and that's from day one, that's kind of, I don't want to go through this and, have him go through this, because our lives, so then from the age of 3 until even now, is very structured. You go to preschool, on certain days you have OT, on other days you have speech therapy. We do, your sports now, but we have a little bit more flexibility now because he's receiving services through the school, and he has grown and developed so much in the last, that scared me for a minute. I was like,
no.
He's grown so much in the last year, but
I was going to say that's not that long ago. But it sounds like, so the talking thing, obviously, leaps and bounds,
leaps and bounds in the last, I'm going to say the last year. So he was originally, I ended up transferring him to a different school district. So I moved him from Brainerd. He goes to Pillager School now.
I've heard, we actually talked about that on the show.
A lot.
And
such good things.
Pillager just must.
Oh my
seems
gosh!
Like it's
like a night and day difference. Now I'm gonna get all weepy about this again too, because we had a great team in Brainerd, but it wasn't the right fit. it wasn't the right fit for what my expectations were.
And it's a pretty big school too, which makes it a little bit more difficult.
Big classes and stuff.
Yep. So, I went into what we had was an IEP meeting when he was still at Brainerd. And I said, and he went into that school year knowing his colors and his shapes, and, he couldn't go to the bathroom by himself and all of this stuff. And we went in for this meeting and she's like, oh, he doesn't know any of his colors. What do you mean he doesn't know any of his colors? He knows all of his colors. And he doesn't know like any of the shapes, and like he has a couple of accidents and he's regressing. I go, okay, let's just take a step back real quick. I'm going to speech therapy and occupational therapy 2 days a week in Staples. 2 days a week, I drive my kid to Staples. He's with you 3 days a week. I'm also we're looking into massage therapy and other type of like food therapy and music therapy, is just all of the things that can possibly help him. I go, so if he's with you the majority of the time, you're counteracting all of the other things that I'm doing because they were overwhelmed with the amount of kids in his classroom. He was in a special classroom with kids specifically. It was like the ASD classroom, I guess, is probably the not accurate way to say it. So I hope I don't offend anybody, but
it's spitballing. Just leave the offending to us. We will do it.
So
if anybody's going to piss off the 3 people that watch this, it'll be us.
I think that we get more viewers than that, though, right? You guys get quite a bit of.
We joke about it a lot, but
you're you're
doing great. Yeah, people love it.
Well, and you know a lot of people, so we figure we'll double that. 6 people.
I do know a lot of people. So I said to his teacher, I go, I understand that you have 9 kids in your classroom, all of which are like, because the autism spectrum is a spectrum. So you have kids that are on one end, in the middle, and then there's ones that, are on the far end. And Navy was very self-sufficient. So
they're young kids anyway.
Right.
But Navy was self-sufficient. And I think that I don't want to say that he was kind of like an afterthought of like, oh, well, we don't really have to worry about him eating because like he knows how to eat those chips. Like,
no, yeah. Like that's definitely a thing, being the cream of the crap. Is like it's a bad spot to be.
Yep.
And any, like, whether you have any, whether you're on the spectrum or not. I mean, when you talk about public schools and stuff and big classes, I mean, that's part of the issue. Like you try to like, I mean, what can you do? You're best served by, approaching the medium, and that means the kids up here and the kids down here are kind of fucked in a lot of ways.
So, and I didn't want to, like burn any bridges. I didn't know how it would work out with me driving him to school, 25 minutes each way.
So it was kind of a gamble too, because of the structure that you've worked so hard on and stuff.
Yep.
But it sounds like it paid off.
The determining factor was his speech therapist from Lakewood during that summer. So I ended up pulling him from preschool like that May, or it was his second year. So it would have been 2018, April of 2018. I said, we're not finishing the year here. So we're pulling him. He was in outpatient speech therapy at Lakewood, and his speech therapist, Kayla, said, oh, I just want to let you know I'm going to be training in a new therapist over the summer. I took a job. And I said, where are you going? Because she was fantastic. I took a job at Pillager Early Childhood, and I said, well, that's where we're going for school. Like, I've already been thinking about it. I've already been in communications with the director of the Early Childhood Special Education. And if that's where you're going, then that's just the final nail in the coffin. That's where we're going. So it was hard for me. He was in a very, Monday, Wednesday, Friday in Brainerd from like 8:30 to 10:45 in a special education classroom. And now they threw him in mainstream. So he was with all kids of all abilities and all levels, full days, 3 days a week. And it's just see the change in the self-esteem that he gained. And he has like friends that he wants to like hang out with. And I say, no, mom's your only friend right now, because I don't want to hang out with other kids. But
way to shut that shit down.
Mom's your only friend now. Just make sure you're not doing that when he's like
17.
30.
Mom's your only friend, honey.
He will keep your body around when he kills people and stuff.
Yeah.
And it just worked out. It worked out so seamlessly, and it was such a seamless transition. And now we have our IEP meetings, and when I say, I have such an input in his education and planning his education plan. And, they don't advise you to hold your child back. So we went for our IEP meeting. It was last year, and they said, okay, now let's talk about kindergarten. I go, I'm not putting him in kindergarten. Well, what do you mean you're not putting him in kindergarten? He's going to be 5. He's got to go to kindergarten. No, he doesn't. So they go, okay, if you want to hold him back, we'll hold him back. Where with Brainerd, it was like, nope, he has to go. He has to go. You don't have a choice. He has to go. And with Pillager, they're like, yeah, okay, you want to hold him back? Your mom, you know what's right. So we just, kind of all work together as a team. And
yeah, I keep hearing nothing but good things about that school. I mean, ridiculous.
Fantastic.
And we've got your friend that watches the show, Mr. Freelove.
Yeah, right.
He's
Yeah,
a
he's teacher up there.
band
Yeah,
teacher
I was like,
up there.
whoa,
Okay.
man, you're pulling. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, Rob Freelove.
Okay.
He's he's a music teacher up in Pillager.
Okay.
Used to do jujitsu with Noah too back in the day.
And he does some coaching out there as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Navy goes to music.
Hi, Rob. Good to see you.
If you deal with early childhood kids in music, the one that's always picking his nose is mine. Just kidding. But yeah, so now we're going through the process of he's up for a 3-year reevaluation, and I don't want to say that they don't think that what he has going on is autism. I really like that we have that medical diagnosis because it qualifies him for so many other services that he wouldn't be eligible for if he didn't have it. But we're seeing some more like anxiety and sass.
Well, and that's and sass.
Focus.
Sass
oh my gosh.
is not there. Sass is not in the.
How do they diagnos that?
Sassy
We're afraid
pants.
your child might be a sasshole.
And he struggles. He sometimes struggles to focus if it's not something that he wants to do.
Fucking sex.
I know that's what I say. But at the same time, I'm like Navy, don't make me threaten Adderall. My mom's like, don't say the A word.
Oh my God.
Like joking. I'm totally joking.
There was a minute there where they wanted to put my son on. My son. They looked at him at one point because he had he had a year where he was kind of, he had an off year. And I mean, and at the time, he's 23 now. So I think that they by and large, we've kind of moved away from
the drugs.
over medicating everybody. But for a minute there, motherfuck, like every fucking kid that came down the pike seemed to be getting, a prescription. And I was like, and his mother approached me about it, and I was like, no fucking way, no. And he didn't need it, and he was fine and nothing, and he never did fucking need it.
Yeah.
But man, they just pushed that shit for a while there.
But man, do you regret not getting that prescription?
I'd regret it more if I didn't have a good solid source for my Adderall.
Oh, good.
But that focus, man, that's real. Not that anybody ever takes that without a prescription.
Without a prescription.
No, never.
Horrible idea.
Not like when you're cramming for chemistry finals. But you ended up failing anyway. But
man, there's so many things I want to unpack. One thing that I was going to say is that that whole finding the right fit for your kid is super important.
It took
I think
forever. We bounced around from different physical therapists, occupational therapists, and like massage therapists. And I was taking him to Minneapolis until we could, because there's not a lot of pediatric specialists up here. So, welcome to Big Stone, and your wait list is 9 months. So what do you do in the meantime? You drive him to Minneapolis, drive him to St. Cloud.
Right.
So at one point we were on the wait list for Duluth, Aiken, Bemidji, over to Alexandria, down to St. Cloud, and then Staples.
Man, and I never thought about this before, but I was thinking about the waiting list and stuff, and I know those kind of services, psych services, all that stuff. There's such a the lists are so long, and the systems seem at times inadequate. But we're in fucking Minnesota. I mean, think about if you were going through this and you lived in fucking Alabama or Louisiana or some shit, one of these
most
basically the
and
asshole.
this is not a put down to those areas, though it might be actually.
It might be
but
a little bit,
the likelihood of Navy even being diagnosed is
for sure.
super low.
For sure.
So he would just be a kid that struggles like everybody else struggles, and there you go.
Because I mean,
you just got to deal with it.
One of the things, it's hard to, because we spend every day here, we sometimes don't appreciate what a great state we live in a lot of ways.
Right.
because people are mostly like, oh my God, we get taxed so much here. Well, that's taxes. That's the price of being a fucking, like being a grown up. And living someplace nice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places where that pay a lot less in taxes, and they're shitholes.
I did see a thing on Facebook that was showed
Minnesota's the highest for
and the highest tax, and then it had the lowest tax ones. And I was like looking at it, and I was like, who the fuck would want to live in any of those places?
No,
absolutely. Those are really, really bad places.
Yeah,
like those are places that don't have police officers.
Yeah, like they don't have cops
places
there.
That I wouldn't feel safe driving through.
Right. And they're run by people that that like, no offense, but like angels make their big decisions and policy and stuff like that. And I mean, just a lot of in the care, we're just in a pretty forward thinking state, for the most part. A beautiful blue state. But we do pay a lot of taxes. We also have a lot of services and a lot of
we talk about it all the time.
I
mean, like, we don't necessarily talk about how we pay a lot of taxes, but we talk about how we have a really good police force that typically doesn't shoot people of another color.
I love the Brainerd PD.
as often
Brainerd Maxter PD.
as often
tight. When I was a landlord, I would go to like all of the landlord meetings, and I got in really tight with all of the officers. So
yeah,
it hasn't helped me out of a ticket, but
it's because you don't get enough tickets.
It's because you're black. Let's just face reality.
It's okay.
I think this would be a good place to pause because I'm floating.
Yeah.
And so let's take a little break, and when we get back, we'll talk about blackface.
Yes.
Welcome back to Spitball, and I'm Matt Taylor here with my good buddy
Kyle Amundsen.
And we have Antje Anderson in the house today. So blackface. I hear that's wrong.
We were talking about it earlier about how a buddy of mine had a great CeeLo Green costume, and then a debate ensued about blackface and it being wrong. And my stance was, there's a difference between a costume and blackface. I mean, we all know what blackface was. That was something completely different, I think, than a fucking costume. And I like it all got ironed out. It was nothing big. So blackface.
So years and years and years ago, when episode 1 came out, I went to Halloween as Mace Windu, and I totally did the blackface.
You did a Mace Windu costume. You did not do blackface.
Okay. Well, I put fucking shoe polish on my face.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. First of all,
right?
I got really sick. You really shouldn't put shoe polish on your face. No. It smells horrible, and like I was like inhaling all these fumes, and I couldn't get it off. It was not good. It was not good. But it never even occurred to me that like that would be inappropriate. Like it never occurred to me that you wouldn't want to do that. Well, first of all, I was like, Mace Windu wasn't black. He was a completely different species. Like, we're talking about a universe that was a long, long ago and far, far away. Okay, so like, let's just get that out there. There was no African Americans on fucking Tatooine. All right, and so I was like, So I mean, if I'm gonna go as Jango Fett, or not Jango Fett, if I'm gonna go as I don't know, with somebody else, and they're green, is that not okay to use green shoe polish? Don't do shoe polish because that's not good.
Yeah. Do I have to worry about cultural appropriation when I use Jar Jar Binks phrases? Whoa, shit, that's loud.
That scared me.
Well, just because you're going to use the really horrible Massa accent. That was just the worst of all time.
I tried to rewatch those, and I fucking, I got 10, 15 minutes
Are you a Star Wars fan on that?
And I fucking
Navy
stopped.
and I watch them. Yeah, I'm not super into it, but every night, when it's time for bed, Navy's like, will you put on Disney Plus so we can watch Star Wars?
Oh, cool. Cool.
Man,
so
I'm watching the Clone Wars, that animated shit, and
Mm-hmm.
that stuff is dope.
And as well as Rebels, Star Wars Rebels, really, really good.
Man, I was really relieved that Disney Plus got the resume thing instead of starting everything fucking over from the beginning. That was,
Dude,
it's brand new.
You go into a restaurant and the first week they're open you got to expect some glitches.
Yeah, absolutely. Growing pains.
So they're doing fine.
We've also been binge watching on all the Marvel movies too.
Yeah, lots of people have. That's cool. That they have all that. I haven't watched anything other than Mandalorian, but I love it. Have you watched Mandalorian yet?
I have not yet.
It's really good.
Okay.
And the cute little fucking Yoda guy is
Baby Yoda?
Yeah. Like he'll be all over the fucking place during for Christmas and shit,
Yeah,
Surprise,
I hadn't
surprise.
seen it, but somebody posted a picture, sent me something, and was like, "Look at how cute Baby Yoda was." Where do you think we
suspiciously like an Ewok, or like not an Ewok, but like like a gremlin. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh my.
Or actually, is that a gremlin? A gremlin? Because it's Magua.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's not a gremlin yet. What was he? Or was he still a gremlin? I don't remember.
You know
what? It's been a while since I've watched those movies. But
the whole the whole Mace Windu thing. That's one of the pitfalls of not thinking much about race. Then you get where the situation where I've found myself in before, where you're just too comfortable and you say shit that makes stuff awkward. I mean, and I always talk about how fucking awkward
usually makes your white friends awkward.
Right? Well, usually, like Ace and I talked about. People say awkward shit. Now, I'll say awkward shit, but just because I'm too fucking comfortable,
Well,
and
I think.
But
Ace,
is there too comfortable?
I think Ace kind of enjoys that space. When we had him on the podcast, right away he starts fucking jabbing at me because I said something. He said I came to Minnesota to play football, and then
he's like, "Oh, you just assume that I play football?"
Yeah. 10 minutes later in the podcast, I was trying to pull us back to the conversation. I said, "So you came to Minnesota to play ball?" And he goes, "What makes you assume I played ball?" And I was like, "You fucking said it." But I'm totally I'm not being,
Well, I came to Minnesota to play basketball. No, I'm just kidding. I was not.
How was your career?
I never played real. I was a dancer, so I danced ballet through college, and then I had an injury. So, but in terms of blackface, I think if you're not doing it maliciously, then I don't find it offensive.
Well, in a Halloween costume, but there's a lot of that. I mean,
it was a good costume. He looked like CeeLo Green.
And I think that would CeeLo be offended if somebody dressed up like him and it was a legit costume? I wouldn't be offended.
Well, at this stage of the game, he would probably be fucking
singing,
honored because it would probably make him feel
somebody knew who CeeLo Green was, because I still have no idea.
Well, and I am Brainerd born and raised, and it wasn't until I was in kindergarten where I realized that I'm different. I sat down next to a little girl, and she looked over at me and said, "Get away from me, black girl." And I'm like, "What?
Damn.
What?" Oh my gosh, am I different? And I'll never forget that. But that was kind of the first interaction that I can remember of any type of.
I wonder what kind of shit she heard around the house growing up.
We actually ended up becoming friends in high school, and her mom was a cop that we got along with just fine. So, but yeah, so that was the first time I'm like, okay, so I'm different. And then I said to my mom, am I black? She's like, well, kind of 50-50. So yeah.
Then you get into that whole identifying thing. Everybody, I think everyone agrees that there's too many labels out there, but people are very quick to label themselves too.
Right.
I don't know. Do you if you had to, do you identify as black? Do you?
No, I always forget, and I know that sounds horrible, but it's not anything that I think about.
Up here, and there's not a lot of black people up here anyway.
They're actually we've seen kind of an increase in numbers of minorities, and but it just was never, and it still is kind of something that I don't even really think about.
It should be.
Yeah, it's
so
just
something Ace said. When we did the podcast with Ace, and if you haven't watched that one, it's a really good episode.
God, it was so fun.
I can't remember what number it is, 6 or something like that. But he's originally from Florida, and kind of in the hood.
Yeah.
Grew up, came to Minnesota, and is like, whoa, these motherfuckers are racist. He was shocked at how racist Minnesota was. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Minnesota's racist? I didn't think Minnesota seemed like it was very racist. But I mean, I'm also a fucking white dude, so like whatever. But
Yeah,
I mean,
it doesn't
like,
affect me. How can
but
that be?
your blinders on.
but it, like the whole like getting pulled over and like I'm pulling you over because it's tint on the windows and all that stuff. I just thought it was crazy. But how did you what was your experience then? Have you felt like you've been treated?
There was one time in high school, and my mom, my mom is a realtor, and a new family had moved in down the road from us, and they had kids, kind of my age, and we went bowling. It was the weirdest thing. I wasn't able to drive yet, so the daughters drove to the bowling alley and then got lost on the way back, and we got pulled over, and the cop, saw the kids, and then I was in the far back of the van, and he shined the light at me, and he said, "No, who are you?" No, I was 15, so this was 15 years ago. And I said, "Oh, my name's Antje Anderson. My mom's Tina Anderson." And who's your parent? Or he goes, "Who's your parents?" And I said, "Well, my mom's Tina Anderson. She's a real estate agent. You're not Tina's daughter." Oh yeah, I am. So my mom ended up, we came home and I told her what happened, and she ended up calling down to Brainerd PD and was like, "Hey, here's the deal."
I like black guys.
But your mom's so timid.
No.
Yeah.
Tina's dead. So, and that, and there have been times where like I went to college in Grand Forks, and the only way to get from Brainerd to Grand Forks is to like go either over to Fargo and up, or up through Bemidji and then over. And there have been times, and like even traveling to Duluth, where I'm not sure, or I'm not, 100% comfortable stopping to get gas in like this random little town, because I don't know how I'm going to be treated just based on the color of my skin. I haven't had any, and maybe I'm just overly paranoid about that, but can you ever really be too overly paranoid about that? And there were times, when I lived over here in this neighborhood, that because the cops drive by all the time, so I'd be like walking with my kid in my stroller close to dark, and which house is yours? Then they'd see that it was me, and yes, I own this house, and yeah, I own that one. But that was kind of an important thing for me when I was working as a landlord, going to the landlord meetings and getting in. I don't want to say like getting in good with the cops, but getting in good with the cops. But just kind of building a relationship. So I can understand both sides of things, and I don't. Gosh, I go to bed every night at 7:30, so like I'm not the one to break the law, but like I appreciate your diligence in my neighborhood. But like this is the house that I bought. So, and
I would imagine it again.
You're just a white guy,
dude, but it would. I don't want to say it has to be easier, because there's so many ways it's not easier to be a woman, but it.
Yeah.
Like
nope, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Being
for sure.
a woman of color has got to be a little less
threatening
than being a man of color.
And I got,
especially like an athletic,
Yeah. No, and there have been times where like, I've of course have gotten pulled over, and I'm like, okay, like I just want to make sure that, and it's just who I am as a person. Like, here's my license, here's my registration, like, here you go. And I've been fortunate enough to never really have any real instances where I've been, like scared or feel threatened. I've had, great experiences getting a ticket for talking on my phone at a stoplight. So he was,
as you deserve.
I know. And it was, yeah. So, that was like, that's the one thing on my record. And the cop was a guy that I knew from the gym, and I have like a flawless record. And he's like, unfortunately, yeah, we're going to give you a ticket for this. And I'm like, it's fine. Like I did it. I can't say that I didn't do it. I was scratching my face with my phone because you have me on camera, you next to me. And I'm like, hey, oh, whoops. Okay. So, but the car speaker was echoey, and the realtor I was on the phone with had me on speaker in her office, and it was echoing and whatever.
I like that you can't talk on the phone now in the car.
Unless you have it through your car speaker, and then it echoes.
Well, I obviously don't, because I don't answer my phone, and but it gives me like another layer of excuse for not answering my phone. Like, sorry, I was driving. I called you 23 times. Yeah, I drive a lot.
Just be thankful you're not a realtor, because that's when you do. All
I have my real estate license.
Do you really?
Yeah, I got my real estate license. Oof.
Would you just have it on ice?
Yeah, it's. Okay. I would need to like go and get it re-upped or whatever. I don't know, because I'm sure it expired or whatever. But yeah, I sold real estate for About a year.
Isn't it
About a
fun?
year. I really enjoyed it, but it was the worst time in the world to be selling real estate because it was like after the whole economic collapse.
okay.
And but I don't even want to mention the very, very shady company that I worked for, but
I can look it up.
it was I'll tell you afterward. It was really a kind of a shady deal because we would take these people who would barely qualify for this loan, and then you would have like there would be these 3 houses that they could potentially buy, and then you would bring them there. So it was like you drive them to here's your 3 houses, pick
Okay.
one. That was it. There was no like, and I wouldn't go back to show them again. Like that
Right.
was not an option. Like you have one shot, make sure that's it. And then if you don't want it, I'm going to do it with the next guy. So it was a really weird deal.
Yeah, that
but
sounds super. Sounds fun though.
It was it was a lot easier than a lot of the shit that you have to do if you're like, sometimes you have to bend over backwards.
You know what?
for people, but
This is my, real estate wise, like I said, I got licensed in 2013. I worked under my mom. My mom decided to retire. I kind of was like, well, shit, like, I don't like selling houses. So I transferred over to property management. I worked with the property management company for a year and a half, switched back to real estate, hated working with buyers, went back to property management. And then I finally quit my job after an assault situation that happened last October. And the only thing I could do was start selling houses. I'm like, well, 3rd time's a charm. And it took me 2 separate times of failing, and now I'm doing good.
do you like it?
I love it.
Yeah.
Like-
So I always liked it too. What I really liked was going and looking at the houses.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
But I always would go in with kind of the perspective of being like I'm inspecting the house, not so much that I'm like trying to sell it to
Yep.
the person. I really want to like look at it, figure out what's wrong with it. Like, man, that furnace is old as fuck. And so
wanna get
like
a new
you
one.
want to think about like, cause it's like the last thing I want is to be talked into something.
And that's kind of,
I would rather somebody point out all
Yeah.
of the flaws.
That sales approach. My mom used to, because my dad was always buying and selling cars and cars. He'd buy shit, he'd drive it for a while, he'd get bored, he'd sell it and buy something else. And my mom would always tease him about his sales technique, which was, he'd drive it for a while, he'd work on it, and he'd drive it for a while and stuff. And then somebody would come to look at it, and he would not only tell them anything that might that anything that was the slightest bit wrong with it, but then he would also tell them things that he felt like might go wrong with it in the future.
Like the timing belt might go out in the next 30,000 miles.
And my mom was like, "That's the funniest damn sales approach." And I'm like, but I mean, I get it, because he was super old school.
Yeah.
Well, my folks are old too, but he was super old school, and and no amount of money was worth. And that's another thing. My dad was never really about money. He worked
Right.
super hard, worked ridiculous hours, just fucking crazy hours. The man was a verifiable workaholic. But money just was not his, he wasn't going to, he would not fuck somebody over
Yeah.
for all the tea in China, it wasn't the greatest sales approach, but like,
At least
the same people would stop, would buy a car from him
Yeah.
again and shit,
So recently I bought this van. It's like a, I don't even know what it is.
like a creeper van.
I was gonna say,
actually
it's
the
Raven,
kids
but-
call it the creeper van. Like Meta's kids are like, if I drive up in my Nissan or
it looks
whatever,
like you're doing
they'll be
surveillance.
They'll be like, why are you?
He's the DirecTV guy.
Why aren't you driving the creeper van? And I was like, but anyway, it's just a big, panel van
Yeah.
with a, whatever. And,
With a rack on the top.
with a
and
rack
shit.
on the top. And yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. Anyway, but I went out to, I saw it on Craigslist and I called the guy, made an appointment, went out there to get it. And, he fucking didn't want to sell it. he was like, he was like, yeah, I love this thing and whatever. He's telling me, he's like, I've driven it to, they would go to Sturgis every year. This thing's been to Sturgis and back, 9 times and blah, 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 blah. He's telling me all about it. And I'm like, yeah. I said, okay, let me take it for a drive. I take it for a drive, come back. And I get, 5 minutes later, I'm like, yep, perfect. I'll take it. And he goes, oh, God damn it. And I was like,
You don't wanna
what? You
sell
don't
it?
want to sell it or not? And he's like, yeah, I got to sell it. I have to. And I mean, I was just like,
Did you set up visitation or anything?
here's the money,
Yeah.
right?
Just give me
like,
the,
give me
my
the
creeper.
fucking title.
Give me my
Like, I
creeper,
was
man.
like, I want it now before you change your mind. And then he actually couldn't find the title, and I had to come back another day and get the title. And when I'm in there just to like have him sign the title, him and his wife now are both going on about it. And I'm like, you guys want to go fuck in the back of it or something? Like, I drove it here. Like, we can get that
You can
over with.
just
It's just
go
like,
for it.
I'm
Just
like,
have fun.
man. So,
Act like you're buying their children or something.
but I did some work on it. It was rusted out on the bottom. It was fucking, and I did some work on it and I took some pictures of it and sent it to him. And I was like, I love this fucking thing. And he's like, oh, I'm so happy you sent these to me. And I'm like, whatever.
Thanks
It
for
was just
taking
kinda
care
cute.
of my baby.
Yeah, I think that might be exactly what he said.
Man.
Or I'm glad she found a good home. I think is what he said.
I
And
like
was
it when people assign, like, you get some, sentimental over inanimate objects and stuff. I think that kind of shit, like, in
I
the
totally
world
do.
of real estate,
I cried about my last house.
I had a friend one time. He was like, my kids grew up in that house. I just want some nice people to have it. To
Oh,
live
yeah.
there." That's fucking
Wow.
awesome. That's beautiful.
And I grew up with a mom as a realtor. So like we truly moved all the time. Like we drive by houses and people are like, oh, I like that house. I'm like, yeah, I lived in there. Like I lived
Yeah.
in there for like 6 months.
But I don't even know how many times I've helped your mom move shit.
A lot, because she moves a lot, like randomly. She's like, oh yeah, I'm buying this house, we're moving. Like there were times when I was like 13, I finally got my bedroom like all set and I was all happy. And she's like, I listed the house. Showing start tomorrow. Make sure your bed is made every day. So like our house was always show ready.
Oh shit.
So
Living in a show ready house is hard.
I'm kind of indifferent on that. Like my house when it was for sale was always show ready. So like I had it on showing remarks, like just at least give me like an hour notice so I can get my dog out of there, but it was always ready to go. So I have sellers sometimes who are like, well, like what do we need to do to get our house show ready? Or like if
out.
they have negative, well, no, because that doesn't work because buyers, I mean, bless their hearts. I love working with buyers. They don't know like where a couch goes. So like there are so many times where people are like, well, I wonder.
Move into an apartment, but leave your shit there.
Like how do we put our stuff in? And I'm like, oh, come on, Felicia, let's figure it out.
That reminds me of something else that I've talked to you about before. You have spectacular taste.
Thank you.
I see your projects and stuff like that, and you're decorating, because like I said, Facebook stalking. And now I feel like not that I have good taste myself, because I fucking don't. Like art to me is like dogs playing poker, and like I like the idea, like when which I don't get to do this anymore. That privilege has been taken away from me since I got married. But when I decorate a space, I'm like, I want this place to say, like, I want someone to walk in and be like, this is where Kyle is.
Right. You're like, how much of us can we cram in the background?
Absolutely.
Right. That's the idea.
And I'm like, what do, like this, like, I want someone to be able to walk in and just be like, yeah, we know
I know
this,
dude. Yeah.
And so that means it's not tasteful and not pretty, much like myself. So I don't get to fuck with that stuff anymore. But I have developed kind of an eye, being married to Christine, like an appreciation for, so I see that stuff and I'm like, damn. Well, and I'll show Christine. She's like, yeah, I know, I saw that. She's got a gift, and I'm like,
thank you.
Well, I was on my list that I didn't write down. I wanted to talk to you about, because I have a great fucking memory, like a steel trap.
He's like an elephant. See, now we forgot.
I forgot what the fuck I was gonna say. Oh, I mean, like that wasn't a joke. I actually forgot. Your flower arrangements.
Yeah, I do that as a side hustle too.
Is that like that's a job
That's just me being really nice to people.
Do you do that shit for free?
No, I mean, okay. Now where can I start with this?
I don't even know. This is okay. This is what I know. Meta gave Aaron Lewis a really nice flower arrangement,
and it was from me.
And it was from you. Mm-hmm. That's what I know. And so when I was talking to Meta, She goes, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with Antje. And I was like, yeah, I like Antje. Well, fun. She goes, yeah, she's got a lot of shit going on, like her flower stuff. And I was like, what flower stuff? And then she said, yeah, she does flowers. Remember when I gave Aaron? I was like, I have some vague memory that there were flowers. That's what I have.
So when I was working at the property management company, I also was working as a like on-site minion, I guess, over at the event space at the NP. So I would see, I mean, I knew I wanted to do, so, okay, like let's rewind to like 2013 when I drop out of college. I don't want to be a doctor anymore. And my mom forces me into a career that I don't like, but now I love. I was renovating a house.
Mother knows best.
I never thought of myself as like a creative person. And I, for whatever reason, got the itch to maybe I want to do something in the event industry. It's always changing, but it's always kind of the same. You meet different people. So I ended up getting a job out there and I loved it. So like I ran the events, I ran the weddings, got connected with some excellent vendors, and I would see like the most beautiful flower arrangements. And sometimes they would be like, the bride would say, you know, like, we'll take what you want. Like, we're not going to use these anymore. So I would, you know, take a few flowers off of an arrangement if I had permission from the bride who paid for them, and take them home and just kind of arrange and just kind of play with them. And it was a creative outlet for me. And when Navy wasn't speaking, my mom was a florist back like before me, well before
Tina
me.
was a fucking florist.
Tina's done everything. She used to make like bedazzled sweatshirts and shit too.
I am positive that it was in a mafia owned funeral home.
No, she actually owned up. It was called Shady Oak Floral on Shady Oak Road in Hopkins.
And it was shady as shit.
Shady as shit. So she...
That would be a fucking great name for a floor. Like Shady Oak Florals. We're shady as shit. I love it.
So she was a florist, and I mean, I never witnessed her do anything with flowers, but we through our store that we owned together, Refined, we had a wholesale license, and I said to her, I said, you know, I really kind of want to see where this goes.
You just like skipped over that, but you had a store named Refined. Or you do still?
Kind of. It's like if she feels like it. It's mainly like my mom's project. When she decided to retire from real estate, she needed something to do, so she started collecting shit. And she bought a little store in Pillager, and she opened up her shit shop. Then it moved to this location where we're at here now. And then it moved out to another one of her old houses. So it's like an occasional sale. We have a Facebook page, which is
it's a really good name.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Refined. Yeah. Is a great name for I bought shit and I'm going to repurpose, renew, reuse, and try to figure out a new life for something. So, and it's very close to, you know, kind of what Christina, though Tina didn't do a lot of, she would just find cool stuff and then resell it. She didn't necessarily do a lot of work on it, but
sometimes she was painting stuff.
Yeah, but not like, but Christine will take like a turd and polish it. Or actually sometimes it's a gem, but you know, like it looks like a turd when she gets it, and she'll like really like, and man, I'm super impressed with their shit. But
so like with the store, that was my mom's business, and I mean, as much as our styles and tastes are similar, they're very different. But I said to her, I go, you know, this was in the midst of, you know, dealing with trying to get my son with his disability diagnosed, and I didn't have a house at the time I could rip apart because I went to buy another one, and my bank told me you can't have that many houses. Your debt to income would be too skewed. So I needed something. So I started to wholesale in flowers and randomly, you know, kind of whip together some arrangements. And that's actually how Navy was started to learn how to talk. Like pink, this is a pink garden rose. And we have these peonies, and he would help me with them. His favorite thing was when we would get our flower deliveries, and he would, you know, help cut and process, and then we would arrange them and sell them. And so I did it, and I would just, when I started it off, it was just kind of something more for me.
Like a creative outlet.
But then I would have, you know, all of these flowers, so let's just sell them for what the cost was on them. But,
right. The thing about doing a bunch of flowers for yourself is that, I mean.
And they all die.
Right. And like your creative outlet is making the flower arrangement, but then if it just sits there on your counter, it's like how many dead flowers?
It makes me happy if I can order in, you know, thousands of
So what are you doing then? You do it for people for weddings?
So now I'm doing weddings like randomly. My first wedding was a wedding. Two of my friends got married in Montana, and they had said, you know, would you would you be comfortable doing this? I'm like, yeah, it'll be my wedding gift to you. Like, I'll just do it at cost. And so I did wedding flowers for Montana. It actually ended up being featured in an online article for Montana Bride. And then, which was it was really weird. I didn't know about it until somebody was like, hey, Aaron and Maddie, like their stuff got, like their bouquets were featured on this Instagram account for Montana Bride. I'm like, cool. So I tagged myself in it, and then I did another one and another one and another one, and I just kind of keep.
You just recently did Chase's and
Really?
yeah.
Yes, I did Chase and Katie's.
Katie's. Thank you. I was having a hard time coming up with her name. I love Katie.
Katie was really great because she knew our minds kind of work alike, and she said, I want to do these. I want it to be like a wildflower, and we're doing it very low key, and I need you to make 1,000 boutonnieres. And I said, okay.
Fucking 1,000? There was that many people at their wedding?
Oh, I made it was like 32 boutonnieres.
Oh, you were kidding. I was like, there wasn't 1,000 people.
I thought a boutonniere was a pirate.
They're so time consuming to make. So it's like all of those little things. But I mean, Katie and I go way back. But yeah, so her wedding is, I shouldn't say it, but the way that her stuff turned out, it was the last wedding that I did at my house, my in-home studio. And I loved the way it turned out. And just to see how happy she was and how happy, everybody was with the stuff, it was great. And then since then, I've had now 2 more weddings, and I've booked now 13 for next wedding season.
Jesus fucking Christ!
And that's one of your side hustles.
This is the side hustle.
That's a side hustle. So,
man,
so you are Tina Anderson's daughter?
I am Tina Anderson's daughter. We've got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm actually going to be my friend. I also freelance for other florists. So like I've helped out with Diana at Petals and Beans, and then a florist down in Minneapolis.
So where do you do this at now? Still out of your house?
Well, I don't have a house right now.
Well, I realize
so
that.
out of my bathroom. So no, I'm going to be opening up a studio. So I have a rental space.
Are you going to open up a studio where like people can come, like a retail place? Are you sure? Because one of the things I really like about the model of doing like wedding flowers is that you get to like book this, have it, do your work and bring it out there. But when you have a fucking retail shop,
it's
then
not
you're
going
kind
to
of
be
like
open
there.
It's not going to be open all the time. So I mean, it'll be my office space too. So my friend, backtracking a little bit, my friend Jessie, who also owns a floral and event design company, Ivory and Elm, she's officed out of Franklin. She is now moving to Minneapolis, so I'm taking over her studio space.
Okay.
So
that actually, I thought would be a really good fit for you.
Yes. So I will be, and I don't know if.
So I just want to mention what that is, because some people out there might not
It was my junior high school.
Yes. The Franklin Art Center is a space in town that was a junior high school. And this, I don't even know how many years ago, 20 years ago or so, it was purchased by Art Space, and now is this art studio. It has some living space in there. It's very, I don't want to talk out of school, and I don't know that much about it, but they have these really awesome art studios there that people rent. And it's a good fit because you're not married to having certain hours. You're not, it's
and it's super price competitive. I mean, as an entrepreneur and being self-employed, if I'm stuck paying, $2,000 a month for a retail space, like, oh my gosh, that means that I have to increase my prices.
And you have to,
and I have to be there.
And you have to
be
be there.
Use it.
And that's
it's like that gym membership. So
right. Well, you don't actually have to be at the gym membership.
I do. But so I'm going to be, I think she's out either middle of January, I believe. And then I'll be moving in and kind of taking over. But that'll also kind of be my office space too. And I'm going to be hosting, like real estate. So it's going to kind of be like my catch-all for all of the things.
Excellent.
So it'll be floral event. And then I deal mainly like in sales, like with real estate with first-time home buyers. And a lot of people who are currently renting don't know that they are more than qualified to buy a house. So I'm kind of linking up with other local lenders, and we're going to be hosting classes. And
so it'll just be Antje headquarters.
Yes.
Interesting.
So.
Well, when you're helping people put their weddings together and stuff like that, Matt is a great wedding officiant. He did my wedding, and he was very.
Did he really?
He did a fantastic.
Oh, you
job.
did? I didn't know that.
I would like to break in. I am an ordained minister, and I married
we both
Kyle
are,
and Christine.
Okay.
I was resistant to the idea of marrying them because I don't really even believe in the institution of marriage. But after like meeting Christine and seeing them together, I was willing to do theirs. That's it.
So
You got to be.
People still ask me once in a while, and I hate doing it.
You got to be a pretty fucking special.
Oh.
You have to be a pretty fucking special couple for me to sign on to that. So I'm not going to be hanging out my shingle anytime
You don't want
soon.
me to pass out business cards then at any open house? Okay. We'll just keep that in mind.
But if I accidentally get another one, I'm going to drop the F-bomb a bunch during it.
I do marriage counseling, all kinds of relationship counseling, stuff like that.
We both do. It's called spitballing.
That too. I bounced a bunch of weddings. I have.
You bounced weddings?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
That's an actual thing?
Yeah, we used to, like, there was an incident at the event space that I worked at where, like, they should have hired security and they didn't, and I had to call the cops, and it was bad, and they were like, oh, we need to start getting bouncers.
And see, like, well, in Brainerd, a lot of people don't know this, but Brainerd has, like, if you have a DJ at your event and you've got booze there, or if you got a DJ, if you got live music, or if you have a DJ and you've got booze there,
if you're charging for it,
yes,
if you're charging for the booze,
you've got to have, like, you're supposed to have security there. So yeah, that's, we, like I said, we used to do a lot of events and stuff like that, but I have bounced weddings before. I've worked over here at the BN event space and stuff. But like, yeah, it's sometimes a good idea. Like in my hometown, always fights at weddings. Like, always fights at weddings.
Yeah, but it's okay because it's family.
Exactly.
just knocked cousin Timmy's
is that
teeth out, no big deal.
Is that the are they from the groom's side or the bride's side? Bad question. Sorry, I asked. Like, fucking.
I was just thinking about when I told the story the other week about when I fell when I was trying to hang up the light for Brock's wrestling coach, and I fell on my ass. And it's called The Sun. And I fell on my ass and ended up getting a big bruise that looked like Africa. But I didn't really talk about that party. I didn't get to go to it. But so it's the wrestling coach for Brainerd High School. I can't remember his name right this second, but he was there forever, and he retired, and great friends with Brock and everybody. And so Brock has this big party out there. So they fucking put down wrestling mats.
Oh man!
In the back of the Green Lantern.
Oh man!
No party is.
And I was like,
"Ain't no party like a wrestling party."
I feel like Carl wouldn't let that be. Like, I feel like Carl would be like, "Enough of that."
Nope. Carl was just like, have at it. And I was just like, I regret falling so bad, because that would have been the most fun party to go to watch all these drunk idiots out there, wrestling. And
I hate exerting myself.
Not even a single
I'm
fight. Not a single fight, because they were all like, family and friends. And also you had a wrestling mat, so you didn't have to fight. You could just go out there and wrestle.
Wrestle. No.
It was pretty awesome.
But yeah, so I'll be. I don't even know what we were talking about.
We're talking about your studio. So you have the studio going and doing the flowers?
Yeah, just because right now, I mean, I sold my house and I was planning on purchasing a new one, and the deal fell apart, and now there's nothing available.
It really is an interesting, it's a really tight market right now, right?
It's really frustrating.
Banks, and I put this on Facebook not too long ago, a rant about this, and I'm seeing this every fucking time somebody I know, especially young people, trying to buy their first home and stuff, it seems like, they'll go to the bank, they'll get everything taken care of, they'll have all the paperwork done and shit, and then when they're like, okay, cool, this is the house, let's finish it, then their bank is always like, oh, you know what? Yeah, we didn't do this. I mean, and they'll put it on themselves, and say, oh, it's our mistake. But every fucking time,
it doesn't really matter if it's their mistake, because
it seems fucking shady.
It depends on the lender, in my experience. I've had a very trying first year of real estate. That is, my mom has said, she goes, well, after this year, you're going to be equipped for everything, because I've had the craziest stuff that has happened. And there are so many different, like when it comes to first time home buyers, there are so many different programs. Like, I'm not just saying like, okay, well, you get like 5 to pick from. There are so many different programs, and each program has a different set of requirements. So,
and the other thing that you have to remember, because back when I used to be a realtor, I also was a mortgage broker, which I don't even know if that's really okay, but doesn't matter.
Nope, it's not. Now I know which company you worked for.
And but the whole idea of like the pre-approval, which is what you're talking about. So somebody goes in for a pre-approval.
Pre-approval is
basically
nothing.
What you do is you look at their credit score and you see
nothing.
whether or not their debt to income ratio like is good enough to get the loan, and then you see what loan. Now you got to remember the pool is moving, right? So a month goes by, they find the place, their credit score can change. The requirements for the programs are constantly changing. So it is difficult.
Sometimes these dummies go in are like, well, we bought a new car today. I'm like, congratulations. Enjoy renting for like 6 months.
Or
they quit their job.
Quit my job. I got a new job.
Oh.
But it's a completely different
it makes me so
job.
Oh, I have like heart palpitations right now thinking about it.
Because but I'm making more money. It doesn't fucking matter. Right? I mean, you've been working at Walmart for 3 years, and now then you take a job working at a census. You're going to make twice as much money. Congratulations on your new job. You just lost your ability to buy a house. So it's very difficult. So now I feel like I am going to bat for the banks.
You know what?
And I'm not, but it is a difficult thing.
Well, and the other thing that people kind of struggle with is knowing, like, so I work with, I mean, like I said, I kind of cater right now more towards first-time buyers, but I also have investors who are like buying rentals, and I see, like, okay, well, we buy this house for $120,000. I know what we know what your payment is on it, and on the rent side of it, they are very easily able to get $1,500 a month in rent for these houses. So if you're renting at that amount and you go to purchase, that is showing that your debt to income is, kind of skewed. So I really think that it depends on who their lender is, what program they're trying to qualify for. And if they don't like the lender that they're working with, like, you have every right to say, well, I'm going to go get a second opinion. And
you don't even have to go with the bank that you went through, but
well, that's where, I mean, a lot of times, I mean, 100% of the times, people will get denied, and then they'll be frustrated, but they'll go to another bank, and that bank will take care of them.
So typically, Antje, when you're working with somebody, so let's not use me as an example, because if I was going to go buy a house, you would be like,
no, I would be like, Matt, you get to go call Tina. Tina can work with you.
No, I couldn't buy a house. Like I'm screwed. But if somebody comes to you and they're like, they're interested in buying a house.
I do this with people, like, truly every day. I have people that say, hey, because like I said, I'm very active on social media, and that's how I've gotten all my buyers are. I mean, like, we know each other and we're friends, but it's hey, you seem to know a lot of what you're talking about. Talk with me. What do I need to do to buy a house? So the first thing I recommend is to, before we go look at houses, is you need to go and meet with a lender, because 99% of the time, you think, oh, I've got $75,000 in student loan debt, and I, am self-employed and I can't buy a house. 99% of the time, you need to maybe pay down your credit card $200 and not spend on it for a month, and then you're good to go.
And on the other side of that, if you have somebody who is just interested in buying a house, but they have shit credit, well, you don't want to go waste your time showing them these houses just so that they can go not get qualified for a loan.
Yep. So I mean, before I show anybody a house, unless like we're super tight, I need I need to know that.
Yeah, fuck browsing.
Yeah, no, because I don't want to make it seem like, oh,
That's
I don't get
browsing is great.
Yeah, no,
but don't involve your fucking realtor.
Yeah, no, and like as realtors, we don't get paid, and I have to say it like that now because I went to a class and they're like realtor, but we don't.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, we don't like it. We don't get compensated until that deal is closed. So like, yeah, we can go look at as many houses as you want and do all of the stuff and go under contract, but like I don't get paid until you get keys to move into your new house. Like, that's how it is. And it's not a negative thing, but it's made me very conscious about, you know, like how I'm spending my time. And as much as I want to help all of the buyers and, you know, let's do these then classes to get you, you know, if it's something that you're thinking about, let's, you know, make something that's a comfortable, because I mean, banks and mortgage people are intimidating. Real estate agents are intimidating because it's all jargon that you as the regular person doesn't understand. So if we were to, you know, to organize something in a comfortable situation where, you know, like you're comfortable with me, you trust me, and this is who I personally use for like all of my stuff, I think that we would kind of, you know, I think that it would be a good thing.
So do you typically work with a couple of select lenders that you send people to?
I shouldn't say I'm biased because I'm not, but I do. If somebody asks me my recommendations, I do tell them who I recommend to work with.
And if you can't answer a question or you find it that you don't want to answer it, just say that you don't want to answer. It's fine. But do you typically work with local lenders rather than that?
Yep.
And then what are your feelings about like national lenders like Lending Tree or any of those big
Every
things?
single deal that I or anybody I know that has done with like a Lending Tree or like those big, like the online or like Quicken Loans has been complete and total shit shows.
That's what that's the same experience I've had.
End up going with a local lender. So yeah, yep. I mean, if you can keep it local, that way whoever is handling your loan is right across the street. You can go yell at them if they're dragging their feet.
Right.
So Lord knows I walk into the bank enough times.
And even versus like going with somebody like Wells Fargo or one of the big companies, even though there's a local office, it's not the same as having a local lender.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He does it just because he knows it.
No, I know, it's kind of funny. But I had an issue this past May where I was representing buyers and the sellers of this specific transaction. And I recommended a lender who was a very close person to me. And, you know, this person said, yeah, I can get this. It was a tricky file. The income was there. It was a tricky and confusing
There's
file.
a shit ton of moving parts in the mortgage industry.
And I say to this person, I'm like, he goes, I can get it done. I have no doubt that I can get this done. I can get this done and it'll be fine. And, you know, these are first time buyers and they're so excited because they were told that they would never be able to buy a house. And this was a seller of mine who just wanted to get out of her house. And it was the perfect house for this family. And, you know, once we, you know, have your contract, then we do the home inspection, the buyers pay out of pocket, you know, the $400 for a home inspection for a house of the size. And we, you know, redraft and we do an addendum, or, you know, we ask the seller to replace or repair something, and then we're pending. And gave their notice at their rental that they're moving into this house, and they've reserved a U-Haul. And I have been told, you know, everything's good. I check in. I mean, once my files go pending, it's the babysitting stage. So it's just hey, are you all good? Okay, cool. Now I got to go do, like, if we're all good and like all of the, you know, the bank says we're good and the closing company says we're good and like y'all are good, then I'm going to go do with other clients. And we were scheduled to close on a Friday, and I got a phone call on that Tuesday from my buyer saying, well, apparently they aren't doing the loan. I go, what do you mean they aren't doing the loan? We're doing the loan. I haven't gotten anything that says that they're not doing the loan. What do you mean they're not doing the loan? Yeah, well, I got a phone call she's crying, and she goes, you know, I got a phone call from the closing company that they were waiting for the closing disclosure to come out, which has to, you know, come out 3 days before. And so she called and asked for it, and they said, oh yeah, well, no, we're not doing the loan. She goes, can you see what's going on? I go, absolutely. So I call who I was in contact with for this file. And he goes, well, we aren't not doing the loan. Who told you that? I go, well, it's what the closing company said. And he goes, well, let me make a couple of phone calls and I'll get back to you. So 20 minutes go by, and I get a phone call then with like this specific banker or lender. And he's the VP of mortgage lending. So you would think that like this is not going to happen. And he goes, well, apparently we're not doing the loan. What do you mean we're not doing the loan? Well, it just didn't work out. I go, oh, it just didn't work out. And I flipped. I lost it because I felt so responsible for that. And like both clients then, you know, it said, you know, like it wasn't you, but you know, this was somebody who was a very, like I said, a very close person to me who I trusted with, I mean, like who's one of my best friends.
So was the person who was buying the house?
No, the lender.
The lender. Yeah.
And he goes, well, I passed it off to, he's out of the state. Well, I passed it off to the Minnesota Minions. I go, so essentially you passed my file off that was given to you to the Minnesota branch of your bank because you aren't licensed to do loans in Minnesota. That's what happened. Well, I guess that's what it is. I go, okay, so now here's what's going to happen now. You get to call that buyer and let them know what you did, how you messed this up. I was told that like appraisals were ordered and that appraisals went through, but appraisals were never ordered.
Damn.
It was so bad. And I just...
See, I had somebody recommend...
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I was like...
No. And
then I heard your story and I was like, well, that'll never happen.
And I mean, but it was... And
the poor buyers, like, who are sitting there holding the bag.
That shit, like, that's one of the reasons that I mentioned that I brought that whole thing up in the first place, because these people, people are excited and they're, and I mean, that's a big deal. And a lot of and especially first time home buyers and stuff, all this shit. And then to be told like, sorry,
so you were saying, or like supposedly, I don't know what the exact statistic is, but, buying a home, especially a first-time home, is rated up there among the most stressful experiences that people experience in their adult life.
I believe
like it's that, getting married, getting divorced, and like the death of a fucking child or something like that, or the death of a parent or whatever. But it's like, but getting
AIDS test dropped off that list after they got really fast.
Right.
Yeah, it was horrible. And then I had to literally like this was a family of like 9. It was like a family of 9 or 10, and I had to find them a rental, and they ended up moving into a rental, and it just.
Which that's another thing in this area. Rental property is tough.
Oh man,
rental property is expensive.
So expensive. And there's some fucking straight up slumlords in this town.
Mm-hmm.
In my work, I work with a lot of kids that are getting into an apartment for the first time, and it's a really difficult market.
Well, we've worked together a couple of times. Yeah. So
I don't want to mention who.
No, it's good.
But it's just a tight market. Yeah, it's really tight.
Yeah.
It's really tight. Yep.
And
even like you're looking at, and I mean, the market's going to bear the market price, So like when there is no rentals available, when we're at 1% vacancy, it's very difficult to like bitch about the price of the apartment.
You got to know somebody, man. It's like you got to know somebody to get a goddamn rental in this.
When
town.
I was working for the property management company I worked for, to see like what our rental requirements were in comparison to what the qualifications are for an FHA mortgage.
Right. You can almost buy a,
you can buy a house.
Yep. Or the problem is that there isn't a lot on the market even to buy.
So you have to wait until March is what I'm finding, because I'm in that situation right now.
Right. It's tough.
February, March is when the market's going to pick back up. So, I mean, at least with inventory, we've seen such an increase with pricing, like crazy. Like it's not right now, it's a seller's market. So I mean, you can get top dollar for your house in minimal time if you list it in the right time of year. Now that I'm on the buying side of that, and I knew this kind of going into it, it's a catch-22. So I mean, I can purchase a house for $250,000 that I could have bought 2 years ago for $190,000,
and you could have bought for like $80,000 when I was selling real estate.
Yeah. So, and then, I mean, so we're seeing, like it's a bell curve, but we're still kind of on the up and up. And just to educate my buyers and, okay, yes, you are approved for $160,000, but the houses that are listed for $160,000 right now are actually worth $120,000. So we're going to look under your budget, and we're going to find you something that you can live in for 2 years with the size family that you have, and you aren't going to be house poor, because when you outgrow this house, then the value will hold, and you will have increased that value.
It's amazing how much it's recovered, the housing market. I mean, back when we were working together on the foreclosure deal, so when I was going around mowing foreclosures, I was talking about it last week, but I would mow entire blocks. It would be like one house after another. It was everybody on that block. And if you just happened to not be a foreclosure, well, fuck it, I just mow your lawn anyway, because
it's just easier just to go all the way down.
Straight through. And now it's just, expected that those houses would be selling for fucking, shit piles of money.
And I mean, there's still foreclosures.
Oh,
that,
for sure.
I mean,
There
for
always
sure,
will be.
there always will be. But it's just, I was around and like conscious and was aware of what was going on in the market the last time it crashed. And I see so many similarities with the trends right now that, I mean, anything that I do and that I move my clients into, we need to be smart. We need to make smart moves, smart decisions moving forward as to what it is that we're going to do. Because if something does happen, the last thing I want to do is be the one that was the realtor that sold us this house, even though
But
you
it
told us
wasn't,
not
I mean,
to.
and not to say that real estate agents didn't have a
hand
part
in
to
it.
play
Oh.
in the economic, but that was not a real estate agent.
That was
a lending.
Lending.
I just wanted to touch on the realtor. So I think like language has like texture, like food, right?
Ugh, I hate it.
And I like the way realtor sounds.
Oh yeah.
Like I think it sounds sexy. I think realtor sounds dumb. And I like the way the word agave sounds. And I know it's agave nectar, but I like agave. So I'm putting a fucking W in it.
Oh.
And I'm fine with that.
Oh.
And if somebody goes, do you mean agave? Or
Yeah.
agave?
Yeah,
Or whatever
I
the fuck
do
it is?
mean that.
No, I mean agave.
Oh my gosh.
It's so much richer. It's got a W.
See,
got an extra
realtor,
letter.
like you attach tor to something, and it sounds like a barbarian from a bad movie or something.
Yeah.
I had to do our new member orientations. Like when you leave the Greater Lakes Association of Realtors for more than a year, they make you do new member orientation again. So I've done it 3 times. But it was funny for me because I mean they everybody who was instructing the class, or at least the president who was instructing the class, knew me, and it's just kind of a funny joke.
They were bitchy about it back then too, and I have a hard time like making any kind of change to the way I say anything. So I would always just say I'm a real estate agent.
Yeah.
I would to get away from saying, because I would have to stop and think, is it realtor or realtor? Realtor is the way they want me to say it the stupid way. I gotta remember stupid way. So real estate agent.
Yeah, we just say I'm a licensed agent. So.
Anything else on your list, Kyle, or we should probably wrap this up?
I'm actually
stay tuned for part 2 next week. No,
I
I'm just
do
kidding.
have something on my list. You being a big fan of the holidays, loving holidays the way you do.
Are you talking
Yes.
about me?
No,
Or Matt? Okay.
Matt.
I was like, I love Christmas. I got 14 Christmas trees.
So I decided to ask both of you, just like we were in school or something, what are you thankful for this year? Because even though this will be shown, people will be seeing this after Thanksgiving, we are actually right now a couple of days right before Thanksgiving.
Who wants to go first?
You go first.
Okay. I am thankful for, I guess, my family and friends for supporting me through a difficult transition over the last year and my clients. It took a lot for me to finally have the courage to leave the job that I was secure in and just have the balls to go out on my own and be successful. My goal with transitioning from property management to sales was to at least match my salary. And I've done that multiple times over. So, and it was because of my clients and, being vocal and just having the courage to take that step outside of the comfort zone. And I'm thankful that I finally did that and took that step.
Can I just say fuck you for being just good at everything?
Right? It's disgusting.
It was that I'm not good at I'm not good at chemistry. I'm not good at college.
That's right.
We established that up front. But yeah, it was, and with me sharing my story of how I was feeling at work and the anxiety that was crippling me to the point where I was sick to go to work every day.
Was that when you were a stripper?
Yes, that was when I was a stripper.
Okay.
I've always been, like I said, I'm very active and vocal on social media, and I think it's important to share, to just share, and maybe I overshare, but if I could help one person to better their life or to have the courage to better their life, then that's all I want. And I did a huge Facebook post not too long ago about, this is how I was feeling and this is what I was going through every day at work and being bullied. And, it's tough to go into an office space where nobody communicates with you and you're expected to sit there and do your job, and then to have things
a hostile work environment.
Yeah. And then to have things thrown at
Life
you.
is too short.
And finally, I just quit, and I had, when I went public with that, and when I vocalized what had happened, I had like 4 people that said to me, because you because you did this and because you have been there, I had the courage to leave my hostile work environment. I decided that my own well-being was more important than a meaningless paycheck, and that my happiness and that me prospering and living up to my full potential was more important than just missing pay for 2 weeks. And so, yeah.
And I think you're great at Facebook.
Thank you.
As someone that is balls deep in Facebook on a daily basis.
My mother says I'm good at Facebook too. That's why she has me at a decent commission split. So I do their awkward marketing. Right. I haven't been really on it, but
I don't think that you can be too
forthcoming
on Facebook. Yeah. Unless you're like being vague, like that oversharing isn't really a thing. If you're being sincere or honest and you're putting it out there.
And I mean, like I said, with my clients, they all come to me. I mean, hey, like we're friends on social media. Can we meet in coffee and let's meet for coffee? And can I talk with you about like my real estate goals? Well, let's build a friendship first. Like I want everybody to know that, I mean, come to me as your friend first. At the end of the day, your friendship is more valuable to me than any type of real estate transaction. But if I can help you, then yes. And I prioritize the friendships that I build with these clients over the end means. And I think that that's probably what makes me a little bit different than any other agent is this is a job that I love doing. Same with flowers, like with my weddings, I was getting burnt out at NP, but taking on a select few clients and to truly see the joy. And I don't have to say to somebody every week, oh, you're the most beautiful bride ever, because, just to be able to not get burnt out on that and just to really relinquish in the fact that like I had a part to play in somebody making the biggest
mistake of their life,
either the biggest mistake or I mean like the most important first day that they'll have as a couple, or
other than their divorce.
Yes. Or like buying your first house is crazy, and sometimes people don't see, like if I take you through an ugly house, I just had buyers that closed in October and I took them through this house and I'm like, I love this house, and they're like, why? I go, you need to buy this house. Like we can make this house so cool. And like, you have to trust me. And I find the ugliest houses and we make them fantastic. And that's what we're doing. We're in the middle of a major renovation with it right now.
That amazes me. Just like that kind of like vision and stuff. Cause like, I don't know what the fuck Christina's talking about when she like, I'm like, no, I don't see it.
You have to see it.
I don't have that knack. I don't have that gift.
I mean, not everybody does. And it's taken me a while to kind of finally hone in on it. But yeah, so that's what I do. So like if you buy a house from me and we find you an ugly house, I give you as your closing gift. If you're of age, I give you wine, but we also do a 5-hour design consult. So like I connect you with all of my painters and countertop people and tile people and like the flooring guys, and let's pick out light fixtures, and you can use my wholesale accounts, and I'll help you with furniture and staging and picking out paint colors.
It's like Antje's list.
So yes, it is. So I mean, we work together as a team to figure out that's a really great model anyway, because like you're creating a network then. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so like if the guy who you recommend as the plumber to your clients knows somebody who's going to buy a house, he's obviously probably going to,
Yeah, or
so
Tina, because Tina and I use the same damn plumber.
Well, she's retired now.
No, she's still kicking.
She's
she's so weird. She's like the sleeping dragon. That's what they used to call her at her old brokerage. Now she's broker owner of my brokerage. So she's my boss. So she's not only my roommate right now, but she's my boss. So she'll like come to my room, and
she's so not bossy. It works out fine.
Oh, it's great. So she'll be like, I need you to get those forms. And I'm like, I emailed them to you 4 days ago. Oh, I didn't see them in an email. Oh my gosh, look at your email. Let's figure out how to find your emails. You get so many a day. But yeah, so I mean, we jokingly compete. So like I'm working with a buyer right now, and she also knows my mom, but she chose to work with me. And my mom's like, oh, I want a referral. And I'm like, I'm not getting a referral. You already get a chunk of my commission. But yeah, so she's like the sleeping dragon. So she'll like be dormant for like months, and then all of a sudden be like, and here's $4 million in sales, and I'm going back to hibernation. It's the craziest thing. It's so weird. So good for her. She's been doing this for 26 years now. So
yeah, well, she's just got her little fingers and everything. You never know. So I always say one of these days I'm gonna get a text message from Tina that says call me, because if she calls me I won't answer it, and I'll call her and I'll be like, what's up? And she'll be like, I got a body.
Don't.
Your first story. I'm like, oh, okay, tires. Yeah, okay, probably safe. You know.
Nope. No, she wouldn't kill anybody. She
So,
might
Matt,
knock some teeth in. But
what are you thankful for?
Well, so you said originally that I am anti or negative on the holidays.
I know you.
And
You're excited about this Christmas, and
no, I am. I hate the fucking holidays. But Thanksgiving is like the one holiday. I'm actually kind of like Halloween as well. But Thanksgiving is the one holiday that I've always loved. And I think it has a lot to do with like growing up. My mom, we'd like have these great, always have these great Thanksgivings. And when I had the eclectic, we started a tradition where we do the beggars banquet, and we would just make food, free, Thanksgiving dinner on Thanksgiving for fucking anybody who wanted to show up, and we would just feed a bunch of people. And
that's
then
awesome.
After she passed away, we continued that tradition. So I actually love Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I'm looking forward to this year. I get to go to Clinton's. And
I almost bought his house way back in the day too. Have you ever been to his house?
No, I haven't been out there yet.
No, he's got a pool in
big
the
old
basement.
pool down there.
That was what the kids were telling me.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
It's nice.
So so I actually really this is the one holiday that I like, and I have so many things to be thankful for. But really, and it sounds fucking cheesy, but doing this podcast has been the biggest, like, most important thing I've done this, decade, but like for sure this year. And why is that? And it's because I get to have these incredible conversations with incredible people. And it's so much different than any other conversation. I have conversations with people all the time at the bar and all around and everything, but they're not like this. Where
we talk about blackface.
There's no distractions, right? Nobody's like looking at their phone. There's not a fucking TV on in the background.
You don't have an endless stream of drunks coming up to interrupt you because they don't observe that you're in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah. And I am always just completely, I don't know what I say always, but I'm usually completely like shocked at the depth of every guest that we have on. And that is what I'm absolutely most thankful for. And I've had a pretty fucking good year.
You really have.
I mean, Meta's great. Like I'm in a, like stable, like interesting, fulfilling relationship. Well, that's fucking weird. And I actually kind of like her. So like, that's weird too. So like, so that's been great, but really, this has been the thing that I feel like has been like the best thing this year.
This is a great thing that you guys are doing. That's why I harassed you.
On a fluke, like offhanded comment that I just was like, yeah, that'll probably be fun. We'll do a couple of those and whatever. And now it's like
people harassing you all the time, right? Like me.
Yeah.
It is wonderful. Yeah.
What are you thankful for?
Yeah. Okay. What are
likewise,
you
I am thankful for the new podcast and stuff. I've not only do I get to hang out with Matt, I get to like meet new people or like get to know people better. Wonderful, interesting people, and these great conversations. Of course, like everything. I feel like being thankful, and appreciating like what I've got is not something that I'm short on in my life, because I'm always counting my blessings. My family's healthy, and happy. I have like a lot of wonderful friends, great relationships, my wonderful kids, my folks, my siblings, my beautiful wife. And this has also been a great year for me. But yeah, the podcast has been going, and I'm really thankful for the people that watch and listen, and support what we do. I'm meeting new people all the time and stuff. People that watch the show and stuff or listen and everything, and I love it. Things are good. I have so much. I don't even know where to begin. I realized before I asked the question that I had no fucking answer set up.
And now you did. See, you did a good job. Good job.
All that shit off the cuff. But if I would have put too much thought into it, it wouldn't really be true to what we do. So
right, we're spitballing.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
You are welcome.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank
This has
you
been
for
great.
coming on.
And next week it'll be Danger Anderson. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we don't know.
Just kidding.
We don't know exactly what's coming up.
No, I'm just kidding.
We do have the holiday.
Well, I've got a lot in the. We've got a lot of people like in the docket. Docket. Did I
Sure.
use that right?
That
That's
works.
right.
That's fine.
Like kind of in the queue
on deck.
and just trying to figure out just trying to match up dates and stuff because strangely enough I thought winter was going to be really the easy time to book people.
Well, you got the holidays and all that.
Well, fuck yeah. And now everybody, now I'm communicating back and forth with, and that's another thing. If you are one of the people that I've been communicating with, I'm so fucking sorry. I'm not the greatest about getting back sometimes, and I'm dealing with, and it's not just you. There's fucking there's a good 20 people that I'm communicating with about being on the show, and and sometimes, occasionally shit falls through last minute and stuff. It makes it, when I'm moving people around, it's not as easy as I thought it would be, which kind of bums me out because
You
I
guys
like
need
shit to
an
be
assistant.
easy.
You need a
We need
lady
a Jamie.
assistant.
We do. We do. We do
handle
need a
all
goddamn
your stuff.
assistant. Somebody that's really tech savvy, really patient, and has nothing fucking else to do with their life.
I was just gonna say I would offer to help, but I don't have time.
No, we were
Oh.
talking
Too
about
much
Sam
stuff.
Gibbons, obviously. He has nothing else to do with his life. Yeah, if you contact me and I ignore you, that's just me ignoring you. I have nothing else going on, but I don't respond.
Just don't. If you need Matt, you just need to text him and just say that you're Tina Anderson with a new cell phone number. That's what you need to do.
Oh, I wouldn't trust that. No, I figure I'd be lured somewhere.
Then he'd call
I'd be
Tina's
lured some
OG
way to get
number and be
killed.
like,
Fucking Tiny would be fucking
Tiny
burying him in a
like-
shallow grave.
Yeah, you just go up there. I hope that's not offensive.
no, it's not.
But that
offensive, 'cause
really
it's
is
just-
what he sounded like.
No, that sounds, dude.
It's
that-
no different if I do my grandma's German accent. What are you doing today?
Okay,
Why are you?
Because I wouldn't mean it in an offensive
No.
way. Because Tiny, I don't want to offend Tiny because the motherfucker was huge.
I'm gonna have to ask my mom about Tiny though.
Well, I don't know. I actually, and that's the beauty of the
won't
shit that I
remember.
do with Tina. I never asked her. I went and dropped that truck off and hosed it out and dropped it off. And
Was it the positive truck? Was it the old positive truck?
Well, I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
It's
I
fine.
hosed
There was
it
an
all out,
old one that was
and
like
then-
a foreclosure truck.
And then, put it back, put the keys where they're supposed to go, and, sent her a bill. Never asked her why the fuck I did it. Never asked her anything about it. Just was like, yep, there you go.
Organized crime might be like what she should be getting into in her retirement.
She's just doing grandma stuff now. She's got that little one right now and living her best life with her young
the
roommate.
grandparent shit is
Organized
dope.
crime is what she should be getting into in her
think that
retirement.
should. Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. Well, that's all we have for you today. We will talk to you next week. Bye. Hey guys, thanks again for listening to the podcast today. That was a lot of fun with Antje. At the end there, we were talking about things that we were grateful for. And like I said, I'm really grateful that I've been able to do this podcast over the past few months here. But one of the other things that occurred to me is this podcast has gotten me to go back through my catalog of original music. And I've really got to find some gems. The song that I'm going to take you out with today is from a band called Saint Anyway. And they, like a lot of the bands that have been featured on this show, are no longer with us. They didn't pass away or anything. It's just that they have moved on to other things. Though the banjo member, Tony Peterson, has gone on to play in a couple other bands and is continuing to perform and hopefully is going to be on the show at some point here. Anyway, this song is called Tied to Your Tracks, and again, it's by the band Saint Anyway. Check it out, and happy Thanksgiving.
I wake up in the morning to whistles and bells. The city's got its stories to tell. Voices lift easy, they come out like the ocean swells. Tonight I'm looking far past a bottle in my hand. Sometimes it's all the truth I can stand. I just follow the way the wind it blows. knows my plans. And I'm tied to your tracks, love. I wish that I am your last love. The dream comes to me like a memory, and I rise above once again. The story will find me, and I'll turn to words how I should have fallen for a bluebird. At least you know each spring they always return. And I've learned to capture this mixture of shadows and glory, hang them up like pictures on the wall, and stay laughing through my tears after it all. And I'm tied to your tracks, love. I wish that I am your last love. The dream comes to me like a memory, and I rise above once again. I'm tied to your tracks, love. I wish that I am your last love. The dream comes to me like a memory, and I rise above, and I rise above once again.